Call this meeting to order. We're a little bit late. It's 4:05 p.m. City Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Dowling?
Here.
Councilmember Alinsky?
Here.
Councilmember Garrison?
Present.
Councilmember Howdy?
Here.
Councilmember Pratt?
Here.
Vice Mayor Piper? Here. Mayor Jones?
Here. So I apologize for my attire tonight. We had our meeting early. We hope to be able to go over to National Night Out. When I look at the agenda, I'm not sure that's going to happen, but we were trying. So I'm all ready for a picnic, I guess. But anyway, the next item is Pledge of Allegiance, and we have Krista Earl here with us tonight. And she is a Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission member. And when we're done saying the pledge, if you want to share a little bit of information about yourself, please stay.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, yeah.
So if you'd like to share a little bit of information with us about your activities with the Youth Commission and anything else you'd like to share.
All right. I've been on the commission for 2 to 3 years, and we've done so much volunteer work in the community and just a lot of things, like we do the Easter egg hunt, and we do movie nights, a bunch of stuff like that. We're currently trying to get a movie theater back in Cottonwood, doing surveys, asking people if they're interested in it. Our motto is dream big, so we're trying to do something that's really going to help the community out, hopefully something fun.
Thank you. We really appreciate your service on the commission.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming tonight and leading the pledge. We do have a certificate for you. On behalf of my colleagues, the City Council, we would like to present this appreciation certificate to you.
One more time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all you do for the youth in Cottonwood and the rest of the community. Would all the council members please be sure that your microphones are on? The next item is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during this summary, unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Mr. Bartosh?
Madam Mayor, council members, talking about our Cottonwood Youth Advisory Council. They'll be doing their end of the year trip to Happy Jack, which is kind of a celebration of their successful year of contributing to the community. And they will also be attending the League of Cities and Towns during the League's youth program. Our fire department is hosting a health, they said not to call it a fair, but I don't know what else you call it, a health fair at the fire department on August 29th and 30th. This will be in conjunction with the Verde Valley Medical Center. It is also part of our employee wellness program. Our library will be hosting a Talking Books program this Friday at 10:30. And this is a program that if you're unable to read due to disability or maybe just a lack of the ability to read, these books actually help people to read. So it's a great program. And they'll also be sponsoring an Authors Day, and we have 40 authors participating on that event. That's it, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. Council? Vice Mayor?
I had the pleasure of attending the celebration
Arizona State University for the Cooperative Extension 100-year anniversary that was enacted in 1914 by the Smith-Lever Act. Andy Grosetta was honored there. The mayor of Payson was honored there, Kenny. And it was really, really interesting. We heard about tree rings and water, and thought more than I ever thought was going on with the extension services. But they really do a lot, and they're very important in the state, actually throughout the country. But it was a really well-attended and cool in the Pines, near Happy Jack.
Wonderful. Okay, Terrence?
Yeah, I just want to remind people that the fall semester at Yavapai College will be starting on August 18th, and it's never too late to register for classes, so I invite everyone in the community to come up and see us and see if we have something for you. And we are a month away from one of Cottonwood's signal events is Rhythm and Ribs. It is the first weekend in September, I believe, so we're excited about that.
And then Walking on Main is in November.
Well, Thunder Valley Rally
is a couple
later in the month of September, and then Walking on Main is November. Yeah, we have some great events coming up. And there are really some great musical acts going to be at Rhythm and Ribs, so we invite you all out to that too. It's going to be a great event.
Great. So we keep staff running the months of September, October, and November. So we thank your department, Richard, and Public Works, and all of you who work together. Anything else, Council?
I'll just remind folks that during Walking on Main is the historic home tour, the inaugural home tour here in Cottonwood. So it'll be going on in conjunction with Walking on Main November 8th.
So I want to buy the first ticket.
Okay.
All right.
Please sign up. What's that?
That sounds like a lot of fun. Anybody else on the council? I attended, I guess, the city manager and I and Mike Wise, who is the chairman of the Cottonwood Economic Development Council, we all attended the Southwest Wine Center event this past week. I'm preparing a presentation for a SciTech presentation for the Rural Policy Forum that's coming up. Let's see, I'll be leaving tomorrow for that. And then from there, from Globe, I'll be driving to Tucson to attend the Flynn Foundation Leadership Retreat. And the Vice Mayor and I attended the Cottonwood Oak Creek School District opening where they recognized all the teachers, and that was really exciting. And Superintendent Uran had a really wonderful I guess speech you would call it, but information she shared to get everybody excited about the year, and it sounded like Ames is out this year, so they were all pretty excited about being able to teach the children, and they have new requirements coming up, but I don't think anybody was crying. I didn't see any tears being shed over Ames leaving.
No, not at all.
And I would also, let's see what else is going on. The 14th, Mr. Rodriguez and I will be going down to the grand opening of the Arizona SciTech Festival, and he will actually, we kind of tossed a coin, and he's going to attend a luncheon that day. We can only have one person go. And they'll be talking about the future of science, engineering, technology, and math, or STEM, sometimes called STEAM when you add the arts to it, and what's next in the state with that. Let's see. I think that's it for tonight. I do want to introduce Ellen Van Riper. She is filling in for Steve Horton tonight. So we really appreciate you being here.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. It's nice to be back. And I know I'm not Steve, but I'll do my best.
Thank you very much. So you've done different jobs for us, so you're pretty aware of the city.
And you do have glasses, so it's a reasonable.
Yes, okay. But I think I'm sitting a little taller in the seat.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's a little taller than Steve.
And you have your microphone on.
Yes.
Yeah, he's usually, we have to say when he talks, oh, put that on. Okay, so the next item is a proclamation. And this is a Child Support Awareness Month. And who do we have here tonight accepting this? Shelley Contreras. You said Shelley Contreras, okay. So we'll go ahead and read this proclamation. Whereas the safety and well-being of children is paramount and families need financial means and stability to protect and assist their children. And whereas providing resources to aid parents in succeeding can make a difference in helping to promote long-term security and enriching a child's life and will make our children stronger. And whereas parents and/or caretakers, through a strong work ethic and personal responsibility, can provide a stable foundation for life to children who are dependent upon them for their daily financial, emotional, and physical growth. And whereas collaborative community partnering with parents can assist in identifying valuable resources that may be necessary to achieve self-sufficiency, including employment, education, parenting time, health care, and other services to obtain the best possible outcomes. And whereas community partnerships can serve as a strong resource to families by providing constant family support and guidance. And whereas recognizing that education plays a critical role in improving Arizona's opportunities for growth and prosperity for parents as well as children, and ensures children are well equipped for school and achieve academic successes at all levels. And whereas enhanced occupational and literary skills enable parents to be more competitive in the workforce, improves self-esteem, and provides for better paying jobs and greater employment opportunities. And whereas the Department of Economic Security, Division of Child Support Services, is committed to assisting parents in realizing their financial responsibilities, updating and maintaining open, continuous, consumer-friendly communications, and engaging with parents and diverse family structures to assist them towards greater self-sufficiency to attain the best results for Arizona's children. So Shelley, you want to share a little bit of information about your organization and
what we do?
How you help children and
we basically strive to, collect the support that will help the children of Arizona financially so that, the parents can take care of them, to keep them, what we strive to do is we hope to make them financially sufficient so they're not on state aid, state assistance, and those type, we try to move them off of those types of programs.
All right. Well, we appreciate your work in the community on behalf of children. So we have this certificate or proclamation. Colleagues of the City Council.
And we thank you guys and we appreciate this.
You take two.
Thank you. So thank you, Ms. Contreras. We appreciate you being here tonight. Okay, the next item is awards. This is the most fun part of the night. Recognition of Recreation Center and Emergency Services staff for their actions during an incident at the Recreation Center which occurred on June 18th, 2014. So, Mr. Faust.
Madam Mayor and Council, if I can, I'll just kind of go over a chronology of what transpired on the morning of June 18th, whereby staff responded to an emergency situation at the cardio floor of the Cottonwood Recreation Center. A patron of the facility had been doing a fitness workout at the facility, whereupon he suffered a massive heart attack while utilizing center equipment. The patron of the facility appeared asleep Another individual had noticed the individual at approximately 8:18 in the morning and made contact with the front desk supervisor, Lorenda Yoke. Lorenda responded quickly to determine the issue, and at 8:19 made contact with Mr. Gilbert, who was the individual on the equipment. Within 17 seconds of making contact, Lorenda determined there was an emergency and requested Kirsten Jones, Recreation and Youth Services Coordinator, that she contact 911 emergency. At 8:20, Jack Teal, Recreation Coordinator, immediately responded with the center's AED unit, began preparations for applying the AED nodes. And exactly 40 seconds from Mr. Teal's response time and 1 minute and 51 seconds into the incident, Lorenda Yoke, from when Lorenda first identified and had the call made for 911, EMT Patrick Wyadrolik, a Recreation Center patron who was dropping off his son to youth basketball at the gym, was walking back through the cardio room area and immediately assessed the situation, started chest compressions. Mr. Wyadrolik is a firefighter for the Williamson Valley Baghdad Fire District. Mr. Wyadrolik was unable to be with us tonight, but he acted very decisively. At the same time, staff made contact with Mr. Michael Dolan, a training instructor in EMT for NorthNet out of New York, who was also doing a cardiac chest compression emergency training class in the Recreation Center Administrative Conference Room to a group of citizens. Mr. Dolan moved quickly to the scene at 8:21, which was 38 seconds from when Mr. Wyadrolik started chest compressions. Mr. Dolan began assisting with ventilation. At 8:22 and 19 seconds after that, the Cottonwood Fire Department arrived on the scene, took command, though Mr. Gilbert had passed away at Verde Valley Medical Center approximately 3 hours later within the cardiac intensive care unit. City staff, along with fire department and on-hand EMTs already at the rec center, did an incredible job to try and stabilize Mr. Gilbert for transport. Mr. Gilbert, I knew him for approximately 24 years. He was an interesting individual. Always did everything at the weight room, at the old gym. I knew him quite well, and we did a lot of things together in soccer also. And I think he did something at that point in time we mourned his death, but he was doing something he loved doing. So just wanted to identify also that staff took approximately during that entire time was a 3.5 minute time response from the time that it was identified all the way through. So Jack Teal, Lorenda Yoke, and Kirsten Jones all reacted and responded swiftly and professionally. And even after we did a debriefing, Fire Captain Tim Wills gave kudos to the recreation staff for their professional handling of the incident, as was textbook in getting this individual immediate response. So we wanted to identify them tonight, and so if you guys could come up, and Hez, would you also come up? And if possible, if we could have council do pictures also with staff, that'd be great.
So council, you
Like,
want to come
thank
down?
you, everybody.
And city manager?
Oh, okay, I didn't know. Okay,
You're done?
so,
So do you need a sponsor? I can do that. There we go. All right.
And take two. My hands shake. One more. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you all for making a difference.
Thank you.
Our next item is presentation. Let's see if I got, oh, okay, I'm skipping here. A presentation of the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2013. Certificate of Recognition for Budget Preparation to KRISTEN LENNON. Says KRISTEN here, but I know better. KRISTEN LENNON, Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, Award of Financial Reporting Achievement to Jesus Rudy Rodriguez.
And he's hiding in the back.
So he, whoops, I forgot to put on my mic. Here it comes. Are you presenting this?
No, you are.
Thank you. Okay, so I know all about this. I can do that. We would like to, the City Council would like to present this Award of Financial Reporting Achievement to Jesus Rudy Rodriguez, Administrative Services General Manager. And this is a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, presented to the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, for its comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2013. And this is how many years?
This one is, I think, 22 years.
22. So 22 years. And we have another award. So they call that the CAFR, is what Rudy's award is for. And it has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, including demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. And Rudy was instrumental when putting up a transparency page on our website that has all the financial information that you could want about the city. It's all there, and we were even Brenda Barton, Representative Brenda Barton, commented on that and thought that was excellent that we did that. So the next one is the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, or the GOFA, is pleased to announce that the City of Cottonwood has received the GOFA's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for its budget. The award represents a significant achievement by the city. It reflects the commitment of the governing body and staff to meeting the highest principles of governmental budgeting. In order to receive this budget award, the entity, which is the city, had to satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation. So the guidelines are designed to assess how well the city's budget serves as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communications device. Budget documents must be rated proficient in all 4 categories and the 14 mandatory criteria within those categories to receive this award. So this year, again, we have the esteemed KRISTEN LENNON. Oh, they spelled it wrong too, huh? KRISTEN LENNON, who is our accounting and budget manager. And so this is how many years?
13 years.
13 years. So 22 years and 13 years, the city has been recognized for excellence in financial reporting and excellence in accounting. So council, if you want to come up and present this. Do you want to hold these? Oh, yeah, when we get back. Remind me if I... So you have 2 items in there that you could give Karen. You could give one to a council member so more people can hand stuff out. Okay. So, this is for the city of Cottonwood, and we would like to present it to the finance department. And Tim has, what do you have, Tim?
But it's got a name on it.
And Kirsten.
Certificate of recognition for budget preparation. Good work, Kirsten.
So we're going to have to build you all a new wall pretty soon to hold all of these awards.
They don't give us the big old plaques anymore. They give us one plaque with little buttons every single year.
Okay, all right. So we're not going to run out of space then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Rudy.
So I'm just really so proud of our finance department. They do such an excellent job for the citizens of Cottonwood. They're greatly appreciated. Okay, so next, the Vice Mayor suggested, and I certainly agree, that we lost our Senator, Chester Crandall, who had an accident Monday, and he will be greatly missed. So we're very sorry to hear that, and we're thinking of his family during this difficult time. Okay, the next presentation is presentation by District Supervisor Chip Davis regarding the proposed jail tax.
Good afternoon. We'll try to be fairly brief so you can get all to the family night out this evening. Our Yavapai County Sheriff's Office is in charge of our jail operations, and they keep daily track of how many inmates we have and how our capacity is in the jail system. This past year we've done projections with the economy improving, population growth anticipated, and we've come to the point that we believe that we are going to be beyond capacity in our jail system if we don't start the planning process right now. The planning process for a new jail takes about 4 years. We've got the needs process, the architectural process, then the design process, then the actual building process. And jails are very complex structures, and so we're at the point now that the Board of Supervisors, working with the Sheriff's Department, has made the decision that we do need to build another jail. And we made the decision that we would like to put it on the ballot to ask the citizens of Yavapai County how they would like us to pay for that, whether it be through a sales tax or through a property tax. Our analysis, we believe, is the best interest of the citizens is to do it through the sales tax. We passed a 1/4-cent sales tax in '99. We had the authority to build up to a 1/2-cent sales tax, but we elected to do a 1/4 cent. And in retrospect, maybe we should have done it at a 1/2 cent, but we didn't. So we're going to ask the citizens in the general election this year if they would approve of us increasing the sales tax to a 1/2 cent. So I have with us the Yavapai County Sheriff, Scott Masher, and also the County Administrator, Phil Bordone. Phil has a brief PowerPointed program, and Sheriff Masher can answer any question you can throw at him because he's been through this in and out and very thoroughly. So with that, I'm going to go to Phil Bordone.
Can we turn the microphone up a little bit so we can hear it a little better?
Can we do that? Is it possible?
I know I'm going to speak real loud.
Okay.
Okay. Unfortunately, in this building, we aren't able to do that, and when the air conditioner is on, we all have a difficult time hearing. But I know Phil, he'll speak up.
Mayor, members of the council, I'll try to make sure that I make this brief. Please stop me if you have a question. I'm just going to proceed through it unless you do. I know you're very busy. and I don't want to waste any of your time at this point, but this is part of a presentation we have been making to local jurisdictions. And we'll see if... I don't think you're... We're just going to have to improvise. Okay, just to go over some of the jail district history. The jail district was formed in 1999, as Supervisor Davis said. It was formed solely for the purpose of funding the jail district construction, jail construction, operation, and maintenance. That same year when it was formed as a special district, the voters did approve a quarter-cent sales tax. That quarter-cent sales tax was approved in 1999, came in place for a 20-year period, and expires June 30th, 2020. Using that sales tax, the Camp Verde jail was expanded and improved up to a 600-bed facility. It added 480 beds in 2004. At that same year, the district finances became an issue. In 2004, the costs of running the county jail system, which included the Prescott jail at that time, exceeded the revenues that were coming in for the jail district. At that point in time, the county general fund was having to contribute over $3 million by 2008 and 2009. Which, based on that and other circumstances, caused the county to close the Prescott jail at that point in 2009. Just going over some of the jail district benefits to the public in cities and towns. It overaddressed the overcrowding that the sheriff and the county had in our jail system, improved inmate and jail staff safety, very important. Very important to cities and towns. At the point when the jail district was formed, you as a city and town no longer funded any jail operations directly out of your general fund. You no longer had to pay for your prisoners. That is paid for completely by the jail district tax. That sales tax also relieves property owners of paying a portion of the costs for the operation and maintenance of a jail. The reason that, of course, comes into play is a certain portion, at least we estimate 1/3 of sales tax, comes from visitors in Yavapai County, not property owners. There's been an ongoing effort for many years on trying to reduce inmate population as well as costs to the jails. The early disposition court has been in place for over a decade, and that is the partners in our judicial system, the courts, the sheriff, the county attorney, work to streamline the court system and move people through the process as quickly as possible, disposing of those cases as early as they can and getting people out of our jail system. The sheriff has been aggressive in having inmate copay systems or amounts that offset food and medical services provided to inmates. He will tell you that if somebody comes into jail, they might not leave with it all because they're going to be paying for food and any other services they provide. The jail bed rental, the sheriff's been very aggressive again on when excess capacity of jail beds was available in renting those out to other entities like the U.S. Marshals Service. Restoration to Competency program, that's a program that the state, as part of the recession, moved the costs of restoring individuals that are deemed unable to participate in their defense. They moved that cost to the counties. And when that occurred, you had to send those individuals to the Arizona State Hospital at a cost of $670 per day. The county sheriff and the county attorney's office, recognizing we had to provide that service, created an in-house program that did it for about $240 per day. So again, the jail district has been pursuing reducing costs all along. And one of the most important ones that comes up is jail medical services. Jail medical services, the sheriff's office contracted that out to Wexford Services many years ago as a way to reduce costs by not having in-house personnel having to provide that service. But more importantly, almost eliminated any liability issues and lawsuits within the jail for medical issues because we are indemnified by our private provider. Sheriff Scott Masher came to the Board of Supervisors over over a year ago during budget and made sure they knew the jail system is at capacity. He recommended that the board of directors move forward with the construction of a new Prescott jail as the long-term solution for the needs of the Yavapai County jail system. Something we always get asked, and the sheriff, he's going to speak after me and he can explain this much better, but people will ask, why not reopen the existing Prescott jail instead of building a new jail? Quite simply, it doesn't meet the short-term or long-term needs of the Yavapai County jail system. It has a limited number of beds available. It's a 120-bed facility. It doesn't have the ability to expand. It's within an office building within downtown Prescott. And it has higher cost to operate and maintain due to the outdated design. And the sheriff can explain the difference in design systems between the old systems of jails and new. Just going over some of the projections, and one of the things I'd like to point out, something early on when looking at adult detention populations is understanding classification. Classification reflects the jail's need to separate inmates based on certain characteristics that I've listed there. Our jail system, we estimate in general, 83% of the beds are available to the jail. 17% of the beds that are available are basically taken up because they're moving inmates that are classified with certain risks and not able to use those beds. So when we say we have a 600-bed facility in Camp Verde, one of the things we try to remember is we have just about 500 beds available then. You basically have 83% of those beds only. This is a long-term, since 2008, look at our jail population. And one of the things I'd point out is as the recession was going pretty strong and starting to drop off, we saw a jail population over 600 and it started to drop. The blue is Yavapai County inmates. The green is bed rentals, and the red is the restoration to competency inmates that I mentioned previously. As you can see, we were lucky, and as we had to close the Prescott jail, the inmate population for Yavapai County in blue dropped. The sheriff was, of course, still making as much money as possible he could on bed rentals. And as we start moving into the 2013, we're seeing our inmate population come back, and these are the Yavapai County inmates in the jail system. By the way, this black line represents the amount of beds available with classification. Looking at a graph on an annual basis, the last 4 years we looked at, and this is purely county population inmates. This has no bed rentals or RTC in it. We see an average of 3% average increase of our jail population for county inmates. And we anticipate at the end of 2014, which we're at right now, to actually have an annual, to have had an annual population over our threshold of beds available with classifications. With the 3% increase, we anticipate needing that jail immediately to reduce overcrowding and ensure safety within our jail system. Yavapai County went through an analysis. This analysis right here shows the existing jail district and our current quarter cent, which is in place right now until 2020, expiring, and building a Prescott jail. All the analysis I'm showing you right now are with the construction, operation, and maintenance of a Prescott jail, in addition to our Camp Verde jail operation. If the county loses the existing sales tax in 2020, the additional general fund support required to construct and operate a new Prescott jail will cause this amount of money to be brought in from our general fund. That adds up, of course, to about $6 million in 2019, up to 2021, $13 million at 2021, all the way up to $19 million at 2030. Yavapai County as a county has very limited revenue options. And I'm sure as a city you understand what revenue options you have, but we have basically state shared sales tax that comes in from the state. That's a set amount. And then the other one is property tax. Currently, the County Board of Supervisors set their property tax levy with their budget that was just adopted yesterday at $6 to $7 million underneath their maximum levy limit. So they have kept their property taxes for the county residents, the county board has, low, as low as they can. It's currently $6 to $7 million underneath their levy limit. To address this, this deficit, I'll call it, in the general fund that would be required to bring in money from the general fund, the board would probably have to look at increasing primary property tax. That's one of the only mechanisms they have available to them to bring in revenue to assist with the jail district. This would cause them to, of course, at the same time, you see that wouldn't make up all the revenue needed. They would have to look at reduction in existing general fund services, somewhere to the magnitude of $7 million in 2021, all the way up to about $13 million in 2030. Second analysis we did was, again, just running through it, say we didn't, the voters did not approve a half cent, but instead just looked at extending the existing quarter-cent sales tax for a period of time. Still, there would be a deficit of at least $7.5 to $8.5 million in the general fund that you would have to provide to the jail district. And to make that up, well, wow. There we go. To make that up, we would, of course, so the board might have to look at increasing primary property taxes and also addressing a reduction in existing general fund services in about $1.5 to $2.5 million. The third analysis we did was looking at the Board of Supervisors having the ability, based on the voters, to increase the sales tax up to the maximum of a half cent based on financial need. And the reason that is we're asking the voters to allow the board to increase the sales tax up to the half cent, and depending on the need, they'll be able to adjust that very similarly to how they did that before when the initial jail quarter-cent sales tax was put in place. As you can see, this shows revenues coming in and addressing the expenditures, no increase in property tax levy or decrease in existing general fund services would be necessary. Just, I know I've spoken very quickly, it's just my habit, but running through some of the things that we went through, the history, some of the benefits, ongoing efforts. Sheriff Masher is here to talk specifically about some of his information and recommendations. Reopening of the Prescott Jail. I've gone over some of the adult detention population and projections. More importantly, we've done a financial analysis that shows the construction of the new Prescott Jail, along with the maintenance and operation of that jail, will require an increase in the jail tax up to a half cent. Or, of course, the alternative is to increase property taxes and have a reduction in general fund services to provide for the future needs of the jail system. As Supervisor David did mention, on July 7th, the board did approve placing on the ballot this proposal for the voters to consider. It is to place it for up to a half cent for a 20-year period. And again, the general election is November 4th. Early voting starts October 9th. We are doing public outreach and presentations very similar to this one. We're going to local jurisdictions as well as community groups and organizations. More importantly, we have a website, we have brochures. We're coming to speak to anybody that wants to hear about or have questions answered regarding the jail district and this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bourdon. Any questions?
And the last thing is, I always point out the website, yavapaijail.org. This website, the sheriff will come up and, of course, give you much more information, but this website will hopefully answer your questions. You can go online and also ask us questions or even sign up for tours.
So for members of the public and on television public, the website to learn about the jail district is Yavapai Jail, one word, yavapaijail.org. Sheriff. Thank you, Mr. Bourdon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today. I think they've kind of gone over most of it. I'll be pretty quick. We are at capacity. the Camp Verde jail here with our classifications. Some days we're over. One of the big things is we worked very hard at trying to manage the population. Before we went and asked for additional beds, we wanted to make sure we only had the people in jail that needed to be there. Because one of the misconceptions I hear all the time is, well, you may have a lot of people in there on possession of marijuana or possession of this drug or some of the more minor offenses. We've been working very closely with the courts, the county attorney, public defender to keep only those in jail that are high-risk offenders. And the other day I did a snapshot before I came and did a meeting with Prescott. We had one person arrested and booked in on possession of marijuana, and they bailed out within a couple of hours. On average, our minor offenders, our people who come to jail, victimless type crimes, are in for 3 days on average right now, and that's it. So our majority of the population is medium and maximum kind of security, the more high-risk offenders. At one point, we were upwards of 650 inmates. So over the last few years, getting it down below 600 and keeping it at that, we've really worked to keep those that didn't need to be in jail out of jail. So I want to get that out because that is a big misconception. If we were to let those out who didn't need to be, we'd have all these beds. One of the other things we did, and the Board of Supervisors hired an outside firm to come in and actually do an efficiency study to take a look at what we were spending, the costs, what we truly felt that they felt we needed, and it is to open another Prescott jail. 67% of the arrests and the court cases occur in Prescott. So currently we transport about 14,000 inmates back and forth every year at over $1 million a year. Is our current costs and transportation. That's with buses, fuel, staffing, and what have you. I think they mentioned the Prescott jail. It just doesn't suit the current needs. I could bring 250 inmates over to Prescott right now for court. That's 120 beds. It just isn't going to work for us. We'd be putting a lot of good money into something that really isn't going to suit us. We can't expand the Prescott jail. If you've ever been over there, it's on the second floor of a office building, and we have nowhere to go with it. Currently, the county has purchased some land a few years back anticipating this for a jail. The infrastructure's there, the power, the water. We were not getting the arguments, not in my backyard. The juvenile detention center's there. It's right next to the landfill, the sewer. It's in a location that everybody seems to be good with. And so that's what we're looking at. I went to the board, as they had said, and told them, if we don't start acting now, the same thing's going to happen, what happened to the county in 1999. We got overcrowded. A U.S. District Court held us liable for violating federal laws with inmates and overcrowding. We had an oversight of the Justice Department and the U.S. Attorney's Office. They came into Yavapai County and intervened. And basically, we're going to take over our jail system. They said, we're going to give you one chance to fix it. And we did. And we do not want the federal government coming in telling us what to do again. So we're working on this now. It's been a drawn-out, deliberate plan for the last few years. And we're getting the information out just for people to have the facts when they go to the ballot in October and November. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any. If not, thank you.
Tim?
How many inmates do you have that weren't arrested in Yavapai County? Is it just those beds that you rent?
Yeah, pretty much everybody we have right now is county arrestees. At one point when we had the beds available, we were renting to the federal government primarily on illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. What we were doing in Yavapai County is we were federally certified with ICE. We partnered with ICE, and we were actually doing detainments, identification of illegal immigrants, and we were having them deported. But prior to deportation, the federal government was letting me hold them for X amount of days at a certain daily rate. So we were charging them to hold them prior to deportation. Mm-hmm. But many of them were arrested here for various criminal charges.
So is that a revenue generator for you then? To rent?
It generated us about $8 million, I think, over a period of years, 6 years. So we were actually offsetting a lot of the shortfalls we were encountering from those bed rentals.
So in the new, if you do build a new facility, then do you assume that you'll have the same amount, 17% or so of those beds available for rent?
Well, I'm sure hoping, what I anticipate operationally is if I take 250 inmates and move them to Prescott, I'll be taking a lot of that staff as well. But that will open up these additional beds here in Camp Verde that we have. What we're looking at is if we have the availability to rent more beds, we will. There's no reason why we shouldn't generate the monies to offset. One of the things, and I can speak for the board and Chip because I've heard him say it, is if we are doing that and we don't need that full quarter additional cent, as they did in the past, they won't take it. They'll take only the amount they've needed is what they've done in the past. So we're hoping to generate money again just for that, but you know, it's kind of an unknown right now.
I guess the reason I ask is, you know, I wouldn't want us to get into a position where we're expanding the jail system to house people that weren't arrested in Yavapai County.
You know, and I've said this before to the board, I don't want to go in private business of making, you know, private prison. What I did at the time was, with the 600 beds here, our staff is based on post assignments. It's not a ratio of inmates to employees, which a lot of people think. It's actually assignments in the jail. So if I have 50 open beds, the employee count doesn't change. I might as well fill them and make some money. Now, if I had to go out and hire additional staff or do additional, it wouldn't make any sense. It would kind of equal out. But I certainly don't want to go into private business. I have no statutory obligation to generate revenues. It just really helped us as taxpayers, I think, doing that. And we're looking at this as you know, years down the road. Our planning can take us 30, 40 years down the road. So we're looking at short-term as well as the long-term goals with the jail system. The other thing I think is important to mention is we're not just warehousing people. We heard a little bit about the mental health. Unfortunately, the jail has ended up being the primary mental health treatment center in the county. We see a huge recidivism rate of inmates who have mental health issues and are out violating crime. If we can get the treatment in the jail and make sure they continue with that treatment when they transition out, we saw a huge drop in recidivism, primarily just through the mental health. We're also providing the drug treatment in the jail, which we've seen somewhat of a drop, not as much as like with the mental health. So we want to continue providing these services to manage that population, keep the people out who don't need to be in, provide the mental health and drug rehabilitation. So it's not just warehousing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that would have been my question, is how many beds are we renting out? But
oh, none right now. I mean, very few.
I mean, it really does. I mean, when we build a building, it's for 25 years in the future, we hope.
Right.
So you, I understand why you would be looking at that. And then in the meantime, if you have to, you rent them out. But
yeah,
if they're available. So, questions? Any questions from the council or more comments? Members of the public, are there any comments from members of the public or questions?
Madam Mayor, on behalf of the police department, I'll also speak about this. I'm the chairman of the board for the PANT team for Yavapai County, and as the board chairman, we recently voted for all the chiefs in Yavapai County to support this jail tax increase. The primary reason for that is we all understand as chiefs the severe impact this will have on our ability to continue to function in our budgets. If I have to suddenly throw a $500,000 increase into my budget to house prisoners. I was also, along with Sheriff Masher, was here when we did not have the jail tax. At the end of the year, when our budgets were getting tight, you had people not getting arrested because we didn't have the money to pay for somebody to go to jail. It was an unfortunate side effect of what was happening. The jail tax alleviated that, took that burden off of the cities as a whole. So that is why the chiefs have all supported this jail tax increase.
So with the new deal, as you call it, does that continue, that cities and towns, that would be covered?
Yes, they would. This jail district, what it does is it takes the burden off the cities to pay the per diem and rates of the inmates. A jail district by law can only go up to 1/2 cent, a half a penny of a sales tax. It has a life expectancy of X amount of years. We have 5 years left currently. And it takes away all the burden for all the incorporated cities to have to pay for inmates. So they don't have to be concerned with doing individual budgets, whether or not to arrest a person for whatever the crime may be. Some of the inmates, when they get arrested, have serious medical conditions. And so if you get someone arrested who has to have treatment, that can add up quickly. We currently spend over $3 million a year just in medical treatment on inmates. By law, we're required to do that. So a lot of the burden falls onto the jail district itself, relieving cities and towns of those inmate costs.
So I'm personally looking forward to the day when we can spend more on education and less on putting people in jail, but I guess we're not there yet. But I do see that you have a need. Yes, we had a gentleman that wanted to speak.
Well, I was just wondering.
Could you please come up to the lectern so that the recorder can hear you?
Yes, I was wondering what was going to happen to the budget once the new jail or the addition is added on, and have you thought about hiring locally rather than having police come up from the big city to retire up here?
Yeah, well, so far as the budget, basically right now we make about $7.5 million a year on the quarter cent. The jail costs us $17 million. By law, with the jail district, the board also has to contribute what's called maintenance of effort. That's around $7 million as well. A little over, maybe 7.5, I'll round it there. So we're generating about $15 million a year with the quarter cent and with maintenance of effort. That other $2 million is coming from special revenues. I charge inmates for medical, I charge them for food, I charge them for housing if they have money. If they're booked into jail and they have $300, by the time they get out, they don't have $300. We will charge them and collect fees. So that's currently how we're doing it. If we get an additional $0.25 cent, that will generate another $7.5 million. It'll just mirror what the quarter cent is doing now. So that'll give us the 15 with maintenance of effort and any other special revenues. That's how we plan to build the jail in Prescott. The jail cost, building is a one-time cost. It's your yearly operational cost, your employees that are the issue. The other question I get is, why aren't you putting in a tent? Put your tents up. What we have, and I just mentioned, and so did Phil, all of our minor offenders aren't in the facility. What Joe does down in Maricopa County is he has people that are booked for 30 days, or sentenced for 30 days, 90 days on DUI charges, smaller offenses. He puts those folks in the tents. They're minor security. They don't require a lot of staff. We don't have any of that. If I was to look today, I might have 15 people I could put in a tent, and they're probably going to be gone in 3 days because that's our average length of stay for minor offenders. So I just don't have the people to put in the tents. I get that all the time.
Okay, so what about, I think you have a program for prisoners to pick up trash alongside the highway?
Absolutely. I'm not sure if they've done anything for Cottonwood, but for a lot of the nursing homes, a lot of the local cities in the county have asked us to come help with certain facilities and developmental services issues. We've been out cleaning up a lot of the informal gun ranges all across the county on the Forest Service properties. We use them for cutting grass. We definitely put them to work.
And thank you for that. They have helped in a lot of areas, the probationers at least. I guess yours is different though. You have probation and sheriff's office are different programs.
Yes.
Okay,
but
so
we still have the work crews to go out and do the work.
Trustees.
We've adopted parts of the highways here.
Thank you.
To clean up the highways, and if the cities need help, especially with manual kind of labor stuff, the city of Prescott couldn't clean out huge culverts. They couldn't get equipment in there. We took about 5 days and 20 guys and emptied out those whole culverts full of dirt, opened it all up for them for flooding issues with jail labor. Really helped the city over there a lot.
Thank you very much. And they'd probably rather be out working than
absolutely
than just lying around, some at least.
Mayor, I'm wondering if our field maintenance man needs some help from the inmates out there.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Chief for sharing that information also about your group of folks that do support this. So hopefully the information through the televised program, council meeting, will get out to the public.
The website.
And there's the website, yavapaijail.org, and they can find anything. If they don't have the web, then they can call the sheriff's office or the county supervisor, either one, and get information if they need it.
Thank you very much for having us today.
You're welcome. Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Okay. Thank you very much for that. So the next item is call to the public. Okay, this portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is... Oh, whoa. You guys, stop. I wanted to move up the item about the Mingus Avenue, so we'll go back to that. Because we have our county supervisor here and our county manager who's leaving because the county supervisor can take care of this. Goodbye, Mr. Bourdon. So I wanted to move that item up, and it is item number 1 under new business, approval of a bid from SUNLAND Asphalt for the resurfacing of East Mingus Avenue from Main Street to State Route 89A. And we have our county engineer, our city engineer, Cindy Smith, who is here to present this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. As you have read, we are going to do some resurfacing on Mingus Avenue from Main Street to 89A on the Cornville direction. So is everybody kind of is clear with that? We're doing this as a joint effort with Yavapai County because part of Mingus of this road, part is in City of Cottonwood city limits and part is in Yavapai County. So we're working together to resurface that road. And the biggest qualifier for that road was that it be quiet. So they're going to be doing a Cape Seal on that, which is kind of a new not a new product, but it's we're going to try that. They did some Cape Sealing in Prescott, and they like the results of it. So we're going to try it here for Mingus Avenue. What else? The original estimate was $210,000, and then when the bid came in, it was only $210,000 and change, so only $252 over our estimated bid. So our estimation. So we're happy with that, and so we would move that the bid for SUNLAND Asphalt be approved for the city's portion of the project.
All right, thank you. Does the county supervisor want to add anything to that?
No, we're happy to do joint projects. I think it helps both of us on our cost. And again, we're going to do a rubberized chip seal on this, so it is going to be quieter, better end project.
And yeah, the neighbors that are close to the highway, like our city clerk, will appreciate that, I'm sure. Quiet is better.
That's why we fixed the bridge.
Yes, thank you.
So, yes, it is very good. We appreciate you taking the lead on this, and it'll be a good project. And that highway it's so well used. I mean, I can't imagine life without it now.
Mm-hmm. I don't know even what the traffic counts are.
Right.
Yeah.
Council, any questions about the amount? Okay, so I would entertain a motion. Mr. Pratt?
I move to approve the bid received from Sunland Asphalt for the city's portion of the repaving of East Mingus Avenue in the amount of $210,251.73.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Pratt made the motion, the Vice Mayor seconded it, and I failed to give the public opportunity to speak, and so I would ask you if you would like to share any information or make a comment. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council.
Okay, back to...
It looks like they're moving forward with their water access site as well. That was new. So.
Wow. So I was about mid-sentence in the call to the public. So however, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action. Comments are limited to a 5-minute time period. And I don't have any for the public comments. The water rates would go in the budget hearing. So anything besides water that anybody would like to discuss? Okay, moving on. We'll close the floor to the public. Moving on to the next item, approval of the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes as presented. Second.
Mr. Garrison made the motion. Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That was a regular meeting of July 15th. Okay, comments. Okay, so the next thing, we'll go ahead and do the consent agenda a little bit later. Mr. Rodriguez needs to, he has an event that he has to go to. He needs to leave, and he's presenting this item. So we'll go ahead and move into the hearing. Let's see, what number is that?
4.
Okay, item number 4 under new business, public hearing regarding adoption of the city final budget for fiscal year 2014-2015. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes, Mayor, Council, every year this is about that time when we all get together and discuss the budget. There were no changes from our tentative to our final budget. As you know, that has been a pretty tight year, but before we adopt the budget, we give the public an opportunity to go ahead and speak on the budget.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to move into a formal hearing on our budget. And so we would invite members of the public to speak, and if you would like to fill out a form so that when your comments are recorded by the city clerk, we have appropriate information. So we have Roger Dagnoff. Daigneault. Okay, if you would like to come up, please.
Yes, my name is Roger Daigneault. I live in Cornville, and I'm here tonight to speak on the water rates and the bond measure that's coming up. Last year we had a 67% increase in the water rates for out-of-city customers. This year we have a 8% increase, but actually it's a 42% over the next, I believe, 4 or 5 years. So between now and say 5 years from now, we are looking at over 100% increase in our water rate charges in the outlying areas. And what seems troubling to me is, if the numbers are correct, the people are dwindling that are on the city water. When I say dwindling, the people that cannot afford the water will have it turned off. And then they can't afford to get the water turned back on, because that's an exorbitant hike. I am on a fixed income. I am retired. And I know that there are problems with the increase in the water. Not only for retirees on fixed incomes, but for single parents, no income coming in, people that aren't getting their unemployment and have no help. I guess my biggest worry is who pays for the bond measure, as it is the water users. And as the numbers dwindle, then the bill doesn't get paid. Are we expect that when we hit hard times, that the sales tax or property tax will go up another % or 2 as the numbers dwindle? Now, I know we had to raise the water rates, so we looked like we were a better bonding community. And so 67% plus 42% is pretty hard to take. And some of the rhetoric as far as, well, it costs more to deliver water outside the city, that just isn't acceptable. We have no representation if you live in the outlying area when it comes to water. I believe the council must have found a loophole when it is used as municipality to buy those wells, to sink $250,000 plus into those wells, and then hold the outlying areas responsible for the water. I wish I had a way of voting on this. I wish I had a way of an input on this, but we don't. I appreciate your time here tonight, but I wish you would do some hard thinking, because what happens if we cannot afford to meet our obligations? And the more you charge us, the less you'll have paying for their water. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Margaret Paddock?
Well, thank you. I basically don't have a lot to add to what has been said. I do appreciate that our water service is better, our water is cleaner. I don't appreciate the fact that none of us had a choice. We didn't know that you were going to buy the water companies. We didn't know you would condemn them and take them over. We didn't know that there was a possibility that maybe another company could have come in and bought them. We didn't have a choice. Nobody asked us to vote. It wasn't a county matter. We're not under regulations like the city. It just is not fair. These rates should have been prorated for every user. It's not our fault that you did what you chose to do without having the water companies appraised and without knowing what it would cost you to fix them and to also upgrade the water, clean it so it's not as polluted. We appreciate that you did it, but we didn't have a choice in it. And it's just not fair that you punish us for things that you took on yourself to do without any choice from us. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Any comments about the information?
Mayor, first of all, this isn't a water rate hearing. The budget does not contemplate any rate increase at this point in time. Secondly, the information that the citizens are talking about was released prematurely. The committee had not looked at those numbers. The 8% is not what we were talking about, not what it ended up, and we do have some scheduled workshop with the council where we will present the correct numbers. And I have already talked to our water committee about some of these numbers. I'm not sure who released it, and I didn't really ask who released it, but I did mention to them that when we're working with preliminary numbers, that data should probably not go out, because it sheds a bad light on both the committee and the entire process. So the data that has been released, it was incorrect to start with.
As far as 67%, well, maybe this isn't even the time that we should be discussing water rates, probably. So We can discuss that. There will be open meetings with the public invited to share their thoughts and their feelings. And you can keep track of when those might be on cottonwoodaz.gov. And we would certainly appreciate your attendance and your comments on that.
Mayor?
Yes.
And I just to clarify, during the water rate setting hearings and meetings of previous time, the unincorporated areas representation was informed of the meetings and could have attended or attended at least one or two of them, right?
And of course, that I think we might be getting off topic here,
okay.
But if you'll indulge me just a second. Yeah, last year when we actually had the water rate committee, we did have county representation for a couple of meetings, and they did not come back to the committee meetings. This year, we've had a couple of meetings. Most of the people at the meetings already understood all the process. The two county representatives that we have now picked up on it relatively quick, and we did ask for input from them. They understood the process. They also understood how we came about with the differential rate. But then again, we'll discuss that a little bit further, and we'll probably have the county representatives at that particular meeting too.
Fantastic.
So this particular hearing is for the budget, and it's we have had several meetings where the public's been invited to input on that, and our general fund budget and reserve account budgets and all of those things that go into a budget. So are there any more members of the public who would like to talk about the city's budget? Okay, if not, we'll close the floor to the public and we'll move on to item
Mayor, you have a councilman.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure. I thought you wanted to make a motion.
No,
so.
I just want to ask a question about, I believe we're going to have a work session where we discuss the water issues. Is that correct?
Yes,
And
certainly.
what date is that?
That will be on the 12th, if I'm not mistaken.
A week from tonight?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted that out so the public
Okay.
knows that.
So members of our television public and members of our public here tonight, it will be a work session on the 12th where water rates will be discussed. So we would appreciate your attendance.
What time?
At 6 p.m. generally.
Thank you.
Like tonight we met at 4, so you really ought to always check the agendas on the website. Or they're also posted here and at the library and at City Hall. So just check that out in case something changes like it did tonight. Okay, so the next item is resolution number 2761, adopting the city's final budget and expenditure limitation for fiscal year 2014-15.
Yes, Mayor and Council, our tentative to our final budget did not change. We're still looking at an $86,638,905 budget. It's higher than our 2014 revised number by $28,743,325. And as I've had explained in past meetings, that the reason there's such a large differential is that we budget all of our reserves in our final budget, and when we do our revision, we back all those reserves out. And one of the reasons we go out and do this is because we always budget all of our reserves in case there's any emergencies or grants or such that we oversee or could potentially happen to us, and we want to make sure we have the budget capacity to do so. For this coming year, we are looking at several items that the council approved. Our current employee contribution structure for dependent coverage has remained the same. The percentage have not changed from last year to this year. We're also looking at 4 full-time employees, many of which will be delayed in hiring because that's what we needed to do in order to balance the budget. We do have 3 part-time positions pending. One of them is already on board. NACOG has covered the cost on an assistant for the mayor. We have a fire department and library clerk temporary positions. We're working on those through NACOG, and hopefully we will be able to get those fully funded. All 3 of them were dependent on grant funding. As a reminder, at this point, council authorizes all the purchases of capital equipment and capital infrastructure. However, all capital infrastructure and large purchases do come to the council for their approval for all their contracts before they're ever set out. Also, the finance department will be issuing a acquisition schedule for all of its capital outlay to make sure that we don't overload the budget early on. We usually schedule it during the course of the year, first quarter, second, third, and of course final quarter, to acquire most of our capital equipment. Also wanted to mention that we have the cost of living adjustment is fully funded, as is the city's merit program, but the longevity program fell by the wayside. In November, we'll be bringing back a report, as we do every year, and council can make the decision whether to reinstate the longevity program or not, but that won't be till November when we know how we're trending. We have had four workshops this year, a little bit longer than we have in the past. We struggled to get budgets out to you initially, so we sent out only numbers. Unfortunately, it's not the way we like to do our budgets, but this year was a little bit of a situation not having a seasoned budget analyst online. It is balanced according to statute. So that what that means is that for every expenditure we have some sort of revenue source. We are not borrowing any money to fund any of our maintenance and operational program. We have in the budget, though, a $24 million bond issue pending, and that's to cover costs for capital projects such as the Mingus improvement from Willard Street to 89A, the Main Street, Mingus Street from 89A to Willard. We also have budgeted the 12th Street project, that's from Fur to Main Street, and we also have the Mingus Street from Willard Street to Main Street as part of our financing package, as well as 3 major improvements to our parks to add some restrooms, facilities, and our communication center is also one of the projects that is going to be funded this coming year, and that's already in the works, and we hope to bring it to the council within the next few months. With that being said, I'll take any questions. Oh, by the way, the $24 million includes $10 million that goes to refunding water bonds, which will save the users about $1 million over the course of the term.
So we've had that the past, not last year, but the couple years before that, we had the water bonds on the budget, which increases the budget tremendously. It adds about, what, 30,000 to it?
Well, it increased it by the entire bond issue that we were looking at the time.
Right.
But we did not issue it this last year.
Right. So, I mean, our budgets actually were quite a bit less in those years than what we predicted, but because the city has to take into account anything that might happen.
Right.
Our budget covers a lot of mights.
Right.
And so usually by the end of the year we have not spent even close to what we're budgeting for because we don't get that grant or this grant, or we didn't renew the bonds, or whatever. So just so the public understands that what the budget says doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we're going to spend, but it's built into it in case we have the opportunities to renew our bonds and save money on interest and that sort of thing.
Yes.
So, any questions? Any other comments about the budget? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented and to insert the name of Joseph Stack to resolution number 2759.
We're still on the budget.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve resolution number 2761, adopting the city's fiscal year 2015 final budget and expenditure limitation.
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Garrison made the motion, Mr. Pratt seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. City Clerk, please read resolution number 2761 by title only.
Resolution number 2761, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, adopting the final budget for fiscal year 2014-2015 and establishing an expenditure limitation. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is consent agenda. Thank you. So have safe travels. All right. Consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item number 1 is application for a person transfer liquor license submitted by Lauren K. Merritt, agent for Maverick, located at 690 West Highway 89A. Item number 2 is special event liquor license application submitted by Melinda Swigger, applicant for the Verde Valley Sanctuary for a fundraiser event scheduled for October 4th, 2014 at the Old Town Activity Park. Item number 3 is special event liquor license application submitted by Mitchell Levy, applicant for the Old Town Association for the Thunder Valley Rally event scheduled in Old Town Cottonwood for September 19th, 20th, and 21st, 2014. And resolution number 2759, appointing Joseph Stack as a member of the Cottonwood Library Board. And are there any items that the council wants to poll? And are there any items that citizen would like to poll? If not, Mr. Hudigi.
Yes, and I apologize for jumping the gun. I had just written this out and got lost in my enthusiasm here.
Well, it's great that you're enthusiastic and for a very good reason.
That's my middle name. The motion is to approve the consent agenda as presented and to insert the name of Joseph Stack to Resolution 2759.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Howdy made the motion. The Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Stack. I know you'll do a wonderful job. Thank you for being here, Vanessa Ward. And so, City Clerk, please read resolution number 2759 by title only.
Resolution number 2759, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, appointing Joseph Stack a member of the Library Board of the City of Cottonwood and establishing his term of office. Madam Mayor.
Okay. Item number 2 is recommendation of possible appointees to 2 Yavapai College advisory committees and possible adoption of resolution number 2760 calling for greater communication, participation, and collaboration between Verde Valley communities and the Yavapai Community College District concerning future planning and decision making. And we have with us tonight Al Filardo, who is a member of the Yavapai College Governing Board, and we have James Perry, who is the Executive Dean of the Verde campus. So I put these items on here. There's Mayor Rob Adams called the mayors together. Mr. Pratt.
I just want to ask a question. I work for the college. I'm an employee. Should I recuse myself from this discussion?
I don't think it requires that you actually recuse council member because it's not a fiscal matter. It's just mostly a, increasing the communication amongst the entities.
Okay.
But you have made a record, and that should be sufficient.
Pardon?
You have made a record on the record about your comments, so that should be sufficient.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So I put these items on. Mayor Rob Adams had called the mayors together back on May 29th. And he had some ideas in mind of what he wanted to see done. I did read the newspaper account of the Clarkdale Council, and in the end they didn't even choose to run a resolution. And I would frankly be very happy if our council decided not to run a resolution either. And the reason that I feel that way is because they are a governmental entity, just like we are a governmental entity. So we could take that resolution and we could just turn around the names. And we could say, have the college telling us to create a resolution to make them happy. I do agree with the process of creating these committees, both the committee for the governing board. I'm very excited about that. And I have had some discussions with Mr. Filardo, and he is also very excited about having a group of community members, a group of citizens for input to the governing board. So if the governing board passes this, and that's coming up this month sometime, I believe, we don't know if they will pass it, but we do know that our members here on the Verde side are committed to doing it if the other members will support them on that. So we have 2 names. We had the presentation our last meeting, so I didn't schedule it to be represented because we've already done that and we wanted to get to National Night Out. But if you have any questions on either of these, we have both Mr. Filardo here who would be willing to answer any questions that he can, and we have Mr. Perry here. So yes, Mr. Pratt.
Yeah, it's my understanding that we're going to recommend 2 people for each advisory board, but at that point their names are just going into the pool. That doesn't mean that they'll necessarily serve on the
Exactly.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to clarify that.
Right, we're recommending either members of our staff, ourselves, members of the public, and I do want to mention that we have Billy McIntyre here. Did I say that right? McIntosh. Okay, Billy is Billy Jane McIntosh. She has submitted an application of interest also and has been willing to serve. So I guess, as I understand it, citizens can submit applications also, at least for the Yavapai College, for James Perry's committee. Is that correct? And what about the governing board? Is that?
Mayor Adams,
you want to come up here?
Mayor Adams, member of the council. My name is Al Filardo. I am member of the district governing board representing district number 3. In the initial proposal that's before you, we were supposed to get 2 people from each municipality and 2 from each unrepresented portion of the county. However, we got notice that we overlooked the Yavapai Apache Nation.
Right.
And I think it would be a good thing to present to our board come August 12th, that instead of getting 2 citizens from the citizen pool, not the municipalities, that we get it from the Yavapai Apache Nation. So the proposal or the process of selection that's before you, item number 4, you should consider possibly as a change, depending on whether the district governing board approve it.
Okay, so you're wanting 2 from, you still want 2 from us?
Yes, ma'am.
2 recommendations?
Yes.
Okay, and all right, so Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something else that those who do apply may not know, and we have this in our packet. It says that those candidates who are nominated must submit a letter of interest and qualifications to Tim Carter, the Yavapai County Superintendent of Schools. And so I think people should know that if you want to apply, you do have to submit a letter. And I'm not sure that was out there other than in our packet.
Right, that's a good point. Anything else that you came up with that the public might be interested in?
No, I support the idea of 1 from the community and 1 from the Yavapai Apache Nation. I think that's a good idea.
Absolutely.
I just have one question.
Yes, Mr. Elinsky.
There's a community outreach coordinator that's part of the Verde Valley Advisory Committee, but it doesn't say how that person is selected. It says it's appointed, but who makes the appointment?
Mr. Harrington and I, in our discussion as to who should be coming in from the district, from Yavapai County at large on this side of the mountain, that we thought we'd get someone that is very familiar with the college and the community and has the history of communicating and performing quite well in the community outreach arena.
Okay.
That, of course, still needs to be approved by the district governing board.
Right, okay. It'll be yourself and Mr. Harrington making that appointment.
It will be the whole district governing board for Yavapai County. Other questions?
I guess.
Yes, Mr. Dowling?
It may not be so much a question as just an observation or a statement. I appreciate the idea that the communication is going to get more of a focus and taken seriously. I just myself, when I've read through this and the presentations we've had, I really fear that it's just going to become a mind-numbing bureaucratic maze because of like all the flow charts and this person sees this person and these people are responsible for that. And I realize that has to be put in place to ensure things working in a proper manner. I just would really hate to see it become not what it was intended. So I just would highly encourage somehow not letting that happen, because I know that, you know, I'm reading through it, I'm looking at flow charts, it just starts to look like people really wanted to say something, so here, say everything you want, and it starts to look after a while like it's just so much to say that it's going to get lost in the noise. And I really just would hate to see that happen, so I just want to make sure that was out there.
Yeah, Mr. Dowling, you're making an extremely important point, and that is one of the reasons why we came up with a framework as a basis for the board to operate. From that point forward, the district governing board, specifically Mr. Harrington and I, should Mr. Harrington decide to run for his position again, we'll keep a close eye to make sure that the protocols are handled properly.
And if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of information about yourself, a lot of our members of our public probably haven't met you yet and don't know your background, but as I understand it, you worked for Motorola for many years?
Yes, I worked for 3 major companies. I started as an electrical engineer for Thomson Ramo Wooldridge. I worked on a project called Mariner 4. It's way out there in space now. I also worked for what most of you folks will probably know as National Cash Register, which is NCR, and also Motorola. I am also a professor for Arizona State University. I retired. I am focusing on working with high-risk high school students, and hospice is my passion, so that's where I'm spending my time now. I also am a founder of Verde Valley Leadership. I conduct their first 2-day retreat every year and work and coach some of the participants whenever they request. But I am retired. I live happily in Clarkdale, been living in the valley for going on 15 years, and I can't think of a better place to live.
So just to share that Mr. Filardo has a really excellent background for trying to help, and speaking with him a couple of different times, I really have been impressed at his knowledge and his really desire to get all the community talking and to get, you know, what we want is a good education for our students and programs that benefit adults. And in my discussions with him, he's very committed, but he especially cares about education and getting students educated. And from what I can tell, he really wants what's best for the whole Verde Valley. So we appreciate your dedication and volunteerism, because it's an unpaid position.
If you folks could see how our kids are performing in the global arena in the education area, it will scare you. There are many, many third world countries that are basically kicking us in the rear. So the sooner we start talking to each other, from the elementary school to the middle school to the high school to the colleges, the better off our young people will be.
Okay, so Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, obviously, personally, I know the value. I get a lot of feedback from the community, and we've served the community well. I just wanted to clarify another point here.
Okay.
The way I understand it is the governing board's advisory committee is asking for people who work for the municipalities. The Verde Valley Advisory Board will be mostly made up of citizens. Is that right, James?
I'm a former professor and
No, I was going to ask James. That your
James,
advisory
if you could
committee
come up and answer that
isn't
question.
necessarily going to have municipal
Yes, what I've asked for is a...
people from the community, right?
Correct, a broad mix, so people from the community. No less than 2, no more than 4 recommendations, so that we, as we look at skill sets and things like that, essentially what we're doing, what I'm trying to do is build a team that looks towards the future of the campus. What types of programmings do we need to have there? Interesting enough, I've got a coordinator that served 3 deans now, myself being the 3rd dean on that campus. And she's got a great memory that goes back pretty far. And at one point in time, there was a campus advisory going back to Eula Dean back in those days. But in trying to look at if there ever was a strategic plan, I haven't been able to find one. And there may have been one. And what I have been able to find that the last time we've done a SWOT analysis when we talk about the campus and those sorts of things was 2005. So really the impetus, whether or not you know, the question may arise, is this coming out of challenges and confrontation? It's important to think that, or to remember that this needs to happen no matter what. Whether or not we're facing these challenges, as we look towards the future, and Al hit one of them on the head as we prepare our students for a global workforce, is we've really got to set the focus and decide how are we going to do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So, any other questions?
No, I was just going to make a suggestion. Since we have to appoint 2 of us, put 2 of our names out.
Right.
I think if we have any council members who are interested, they ought to speak up and say they're interested.
Are you interested,
I'm not, because I work
Vice
there.
Mayor?
I'll have my input anyhow.
I'll put my name out there.
Okay. So now we're talking about the governing board, and that comes from the and I think that Randy said that he was interested, and I actually think that either Doug or Casey would also be good, and they also would create it as part of their jobs. So on this item, you know, I was thinking about Dr. Ty in Cottonwood and Barb Uran for your committee. So what about that, if we ask them to apply?
That would be fine. You know, we're looking at representation from whether it be business and industry, whether it be the K-12 district or K-8 and then 9 through 12, because it's important as we look at not only the communities when we talk about the municipalities, but those specific segments that we need to work with in order to create this educational system that is really robust and is preparing students becomes imperative. So if I didn't get representation from the school districts, I would look at appointing those myself.
Okay. Okay, so you're going to kind of take care of that, and you don't really need us to use our spots for that purpose.
Right. Once you send me the recommendations, I'll kind of go through the slate and start to look at again when I talk about skill sets and what areas they come from, so that we can make sure that we've got a strong team for this committee.
Okay. So from Billy Jean, would Jane? I am so sorry. I apologize. All right, so Billy Jane, if you would like to come up and address the council, I know that you were interested. Could someone please carry the microphone over to her?
What is your last name, McIntosh?
McIntosh.
Okay.
And the reason that I said that I might be serve on an advisory committee is because I am retired from Maricopa Community College District in Phoenix, which is one of the most outstanding community colleges, I guess, in the nation. And I just thought my 21 years of experience there, maybe I had something to offer. I don't know what it would be. While I was there, I was a professor who taught some classes mostly about career exploration and helping students get, because regularly I am a counselor. So that's my background. However, I also was in a doctorate program at ASU for higher education administration, and I have all of that background also. I did not do the dissertation because I was getting too old, I felt, and I needed to retire. So I think I have a lot to offer on an advisory committee. I really don't care anything about politics or, nothing else. I'm interested in these students. The people, particularly young people in the community that need direction into what they're going to do with the rest of their life. So that would be my main interest. While I was at Mesa Community College, I was the advisor to the Native American Club, which took in tribes from all over Arizona and really across the nation. And so I know you have that group of students in this area also, the Yavapai Apache tribal people. So I just think I might have something to offer.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Your application looked excellent. So thank you very much for your input. Mr. Garrison?
One thing I'd like to clear up is we're talking two distinctly different advisory committees.
And we've kind of mixed them up.
And so one would be to get your impact on, or your impression on which one you think you would actually be.
Well, actually, the governing board is not a citizen committee.
Right.
They specifically have
Should
asked.
be on the campus one.
Okay. And that's, I guess, the second thing I wanted to bring up is that there is no political. Neither of these advisory committees will be political. They don't have no political function.
Well, I'm not interested in where your budget is, for instance. Those kind of things, never mind. I'm interested in helping you figure out the kinds of coursework that's needed to meet the needs of the particular students in the Verde Valley.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Pratt.
Yeah, can I make a motion appointing the two municipal?
Let's separate them out.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna talk about the governing board appointments.
Yeah.
So.
And we've had two of our city council people voice
Is there
interest.
anyone else who would be interested? And I mean, so you only want 2 applicants, right?
Yes, 2 per municipality.
Okay. And so we have Vice Mayor and our Councilmember Garrison, and then we could also ask Casey or Doug. So.
Yeah, I would move to put forward the names of Vice Mayor Pfeiffer and City Council Member Garrison to serve on the Governing Board's Advisory Committee.
Okay,
and with a, if one of them can't do it, a backup of Mr. Doug Bartos, our City Manager, who probably serves on enough committees already.
So will there be an alternate position? No, it's just you're appointed and you're it.
Yes.
Okay, so I would second that. So the motion is that Randy and Karen will be able to apply. So you'll have to fill out an application and turn it into Tim Carter, County Superintendent. And then also, in case they cannot serve, we would ask our city manager to serve. And so I guess you wouldn't have to do an application unless they can't serve, to save you a little bit of time. But you're officially appointed if they're unable to. Appointed to apply.
Point of clarification, I want to mention that I'm also currently a part-time employee of Yavapai College, and I didn't see this as being a conflict because of the way this board is being collectively put together and by Mr. Carter actually doing the actual appointment. So I didn't mention a conflict of interest. I don't believe there's a conflict of interest, but I want to make sure I put that in the record as well, as long as you thought that was important to note. So
I don't see any problem with that. Because the selection is going to be made by, the ultimate selection is being made by somebody other than the city council, the college board, the college advisory.
Okay.
The board of governors, is that what it is? It's going to be making those decisions, not this body.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Filardo.
Thanks, sir.
Can I make another suggestion?
Yes.
Because I don't think we should be talking about citizens tonight and just putting names out there. I would certainly support Billie Jane McIntosh because she's familiar with the community college system. But I would like to, rather than put names out tonight, put this information out to the public and have...
I have one problem. He needs them now. He needed them a month ago.
Okay, so I could say like Dan Mabry without his permission.
Well,
of whether
yeah,
you want to serve or not. I mean, because that's a name I have in mind.
We're just going to put out names, and then we would ask the city clerk or the city manager, whoever, to please write to them or call them and let them know that the council put their name out, but it's their responsibility to apply and how to do that.
Well, the name I mentioned I would put out because I've talked to him about the college.
Okay,
He's
so
interested
Dan
in the college.
Mayberry would be a wonderful candidate. Yes.
I'll second Dan Mayberry. I think he'd be a great candidate for that committee. Another candidate is Casey Rooney was mentioned. I think being that he's got a handle on the economic development of the area, I think he would also be an excellent choice to be talking about the curriculums that are put in place to deal with economic development. So I really would like to put him out there as well as another member. And I also think our audience member tonight would be an excellent choice. She's to have a great history and a lot of knowledge that would be helpful to have passed along.
So we would encourage Billy Jane.
Oh, excuse me, Mayor and Council, we're hearing a number of names right now. I would suggest that we, maybe do it by each person, have the council, take an action regarding each name, and then that way we have a clear record as to how many names are being recommended.
So, is that my
I was just throwing names out.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
So when we make the motion, we'd do a motion for each name?
Yes,
a separate motion?
Separate motion for each name.
Okay, so the names I have are Casey Rooney and Dan Mayberry so far. And I had Barbara Dimber down because the hospital is so important to the college, but I don't think that she...
My only concern is
she just...
very busy.
She can't do it, yeah.
Boards that I sit on with her.
Yeah, and you could invite her for different necessary agenda items. And Paul Ty and Barbie Rand I had down, but they will be, they'll be asked by you when needed. And I thought someone from the wine industry, I was thinking either Mitch or Paula Woolsey might be someone good. I don't know how connected they are to
well, Paula works. She
there.
teaches
she
classes
works there,
in the...
So she's...
The only caveat in trying to identify specific...
So I guess I would...
we have advisory boards for those program areas.
Right, and so I guess we didn't ask you, what do you think of employees applying?
Employees from the college?
Yeah.
Really what we're looking at is the advisory committee will have a full-time faculty on it. It will have a part-time faculty on it. It will have a staff member on it, and it will have a student on it. So really what I'm looking from you is community members.
Okay. Okay.
So we need to give him 4 names. We've got.
So
no, he needs 2 names.
I would like to put the city manager on this list myself. Okay. Oh, we have Casey though, not both of you. So either or. But Doug would be good too. Okay, so I've heard Dan Mayberry, Casey Rooney, and Casey and Doug can talk that out. So either Casey or Doug, whichever one would prefer to apply.
And Billy Jane
and
McIntosh.
Billy Jane McIntosh.
So we need to give 2 names to James Perry.
At least 2.
2 to 4.
Between 2 to 4.
2 to 4, okay.
So we have 3.
Okay, so I also wrote down, because he's applying for another board tonight, Travis. Is it Trevor? Trevor Gottschalk. I don't know if he'd even be interested or if he can get away from his very busy business. So just an idea. So.
Is there a large employer in the area that might be willing to, serve?
Business, because we don't really have the business community represented.
And we've got such, large employers here. There's, of course, the big wigs are the cement factory and the hospital, but then there's Molden Graphics. That's a business you don't hear much about, but they're
I think Clarkdale already submitted them.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah.
So
our hospital is really our largest business, and they just have a hard time making meetings.
Yeah.
So do you have any ideas from the chamber? someone very interested in education.
Not at the moment.
Anybody
Not
airport
anybody that
related?
can really make the meetings.
So are 3 names good, James?
3 names are fine.
Okay.
So can I do a specific motion for one name, and then somebody can do one for another name?
Sounds good.
Yeah, makes sense.
Do we really have to divide them up like
Well, the
that?
thing is, you know, when you first were discussing it,
Okay.
you had a whole bunch of names floating around. But
Right.
if you've now come to a consensus on 3 possible names, you can do it by one motion. I made the
okay.
comment because we had so
Okay.
many names floating around, I wasn't sure who was going to be in the motion. But if you have
Okay.
3 who you have a consensus on, someone can do a motion.
All right. So, because Terrence works there, do you want to make the motion, or do you
Yeah.
want to let someone else do it?
Yeah, that won't be that problem.
I know you have a very high passion for the success of the school and a lot of
Yes, I do.
personal interest in the success of the students.
There's not a day I don't run into a member of the public that talks to me about the college.
Exactly,
I had an
okay.
ex-student
So if you feel
mention a lecture I
comfortable,
gave him 20 years ago.
if you feel comfortable making the motion, please go ahead.
I move to put forward the names of Billie Jane McIntosh, Dan Mabry, and Doug Bartosh. Is that?
Casey Rooney.
Or Casey Rooney.
Or Casey Rooney, to serve on the Verde Valley Advisory Committee with James Perry.
I would second that. So Mr. Pratt made the motion, the mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. James, thank you very much for your patience. I know some of the other mayors just went ahead and city managers and made those suggestions, but we really felt strongly about having our council make that decision. So thank you very much for your patience. And okay, so the resolution, what do you all want to, how do you want to discuss the resolution?
I would agree with you, Mayor, on that. And this resolution's watered down, and it's not that, abrasive or anything, but at the same time, I just feel like it's, obviously we want to have great communication, but I don't really feel it's our place to,
Tell another governing body.
Another governing body how we want that communication to occur.
And I think that...
Excuse me, I do have to recuse myself on the discussion of the resolution.
Okay.
It's a little too close.
All right. I do feel that that they're creating these boards, really takes the place of a need for a resolution. The fact that they are working with the councils and have spent a lot of time with the mayors, talking about how we could come to a resolution, I think, in good faith. And like Mayor Van Gossig, I don't see where we are, as a city, being underserved by Yavapai College. I mean, we have great relationships with them. We've just created our reclaimed water sharing. We care very much about our students and the future of their college degrees. And we're going to have community members and council members on 2 boards to ensure that that voice is heard. And I just actually don't see what else we need to do about that. So I don't know if council has any other thoughts. I'd entertain your thoughts.
I'll speak up. I believe the emphasis when this all began, as presented by Sedona's mayor, Mr. Adams, was to basically put forward a statement of support that the communities would have moving forward with creating a better line of communication with the college. But more than that, it also put forward the idea of better accountability with the college. And while I understand where you're coming from with, we don't want to tell another governmental agency how to do their business. We do all the time. We complain about the state, we complain about the county. We do tell other entities how we are served or are not served. I think our primary purpose of being council members is to support and talk for our community members. And I also have to respectfully disagree on our communities being served appropriately. I think the Verde Valley has been marginalized by the college over the years. I think we're being underserved, and it's only getting worse. We used to get a catalog in the mail every year, You knew when they came out because you went to the post office and there was a pile this high by the garbage cans. That catalog was this thick of classes that were available for the people in this area. Now you get a packet that's no thicker than our agenda. The typeface is 3 times larger, and they still have a hard time covering 3 pages. The offerings that we get for this community are nil. They're very poor. The emphasis has been over the years with the college to bring everything into an efficient house, an efficient manner. And in doing that, all the programs, all the resources, all the teachers have been moved to the other side of the mountain. Yavapai County, who was here earlier tonight, I think over the last 10 years has done an exceptional job of moving away from that model. They're taking the money, they're putting it back into the areas, and tonight's presentation on the jail tax was a perfect example of that. They're taking and putting that money back into the communities from where it's coming from instead of pushing everything into one space. And while you know, I'll have to speak up that Yavapai College is doing an exceptional job in what they're doing. The vocational programs that are offered are amazing, and the forethought that's going into those programs and where they're going to go. You know, the drone program that's being started is so out there into where the workforce is going to be going. I think that's an exceptional step that the college is taking to take that on and present that program. But all those programs are on the other side of the mountain. We have world-class programs. They're all on the other side of the mountain. We have no programs here. There's no classes on the Sedona campus this year. Camp Verde campus has been closed. Cottonwood doesn't even have a campus. We have to rely on going to the Clarkdale to use their campus. If you go onto that campus, it's a ghost ship. There's nothing available. Everything has been taken away, and I think we owe our communities the advantage of getting what they're paying for, and what they're paying for is an accessible education. And so I do feel as a community member and as a council member that it is our duty to speak up for our communities and to advocate a better relationship with the college and create that synergy that we can all work together to make things better for the community. So I see this watered down, as it said, resolution as nothing more than really at this point showing solidarity with Sedona, Camp Verde, and the nation. The nation just last week also approved the resolution as originally drafted. So to me, it really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day, because I think the college is doing the right thing in creating these 2 committees. I think they're going to go a long way if they're actually taken in earnest from the board's standpoint. But I think this resolution just really says what it needs to, is that we want to build this better relationship and we want to have a voice in what our college provides for our citizens. So I recommend moving forward with the resolution. But.
So I don't know if either Mr. Perry or Mr. Filardo can help me with this. And you can say no if you don't want to, but I was having a conversation at the Southwest Wine Center event with Jody Filardo, who worked for the college 10 years ago, maybe 15. I guess I should turn it off.
That's your alarm, probably. It's time for
it's like, and her discussion was on this issue with the big, thick. I'm at a council meeting, Darlene. Sorry.
Want me to screen your calls?
Bless his heart. It's like, okay, so I need to get this turned off. She was explaining to me that, yes, and I do remember because I was taking classes then, we did have great big thick catalogs in the olden days. But the fact was that almost none of those classes were held because you had to have 12 people, maybe 20 at the time. And if you didn't have that number of people, you didn't have the classes. And so they sent out tons of possibilities for classes. So James, could you answer my question on why is the offering so thin now? And do you have any prior knowledge of why it used to be so thick?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. In the past, what we tried to do was throw out, and I say throw out, but schedule a number of different classes. You're right that we've got to have, and really there is no magic number. For instance, if you have a certificate or degree program, and it only has 4 in it, yet it's required for them to graduate or transfer, well, then you've got a justification to run that class. The issue becomes that you can't have that class not make enrollment, and really as we look at between 12 and 15. So we still have relatively small class sizes, especially compared to 4-year institutions. The issue is we can run a class with that number, but we can't do that repeatedly, okay? And being good stewards with the cost of that. We really don't even recoup cost. We've done a very good job of kind of narrowing that down, so canceling classes, those that necessarily aren't, is for instance, if we've got 3 sections of English 101 and 2 sections have both 15 in them, but the 3rd section has 5, what we'll normally do is we'll cancel that 3rd section, call the students up and say, hey, we've got 2 other options for you, we want to try to move you into those classes. One of the things, and this is what I've been able to delve into, if you look at the Verde campus, is you've got primarily 3 programs now. You have a nursing program, you have an Associates of Fine Arts, and you have viticulture and enology. A campus of this size in a community like we have here cannot maintain itself off of gen ed classes. And I mean just English, math, science. We're going to get a certain, we capture around 30% of the high school population countywide, those that will come to us. Then the population that wants to retool for another career and transfer on, those are the only ones that are going to take the gen eds because they need those to go to a university. So what becomes extremely important is what programs make sense on the east side of the county that can support economic development, that can provide livable wages, because that's what you want. You want a student coming out with a 2-year degree. He's either going to transfer or they can go directly into the workforce and then make a decent wage, because the hope is hopefully that they'll stay here and continue to contribute. So really, again, as we look at the focus of the advisory committee, is really figure out what are the needs on this side of the mountain, what programs are going to benefit both the economy, students, and the populace, and what does the Verde Valley have that makes it extremely unique. Because really what we're talking about is destination programs. I can launch, if I was to launch, let's say for instance, a program that for instance Scottsdale had, but we're not any different than Scottsdale. What would bring them here instead of going to the city? Those are all things that we have to consider. The other thing we have to consider is the cost of programs. If we've got a population that will probably qualify for Pell funding or federal financial aid, we need to make sure that we're paying attention to what their debt ratio will be when they graduate and be able to pay those loans back when they get a job. So we've got some work to do. There's no doubt about it. But it's an exciting time. I agree, Randy. You know, we moved away from the catalog some time ago. And when you're looking at an older population, some of them do not want to go online to look at what classes are available, which is primarily what we've moved to. I don't have any answers for you, but we're looking at opportunities and suggestions.
Oh, I think your committee that you're putting together is a huge step, and that's where it's got to start. But that gets back to the resolution. I think really it's about a commitment from the communities to move forward with that communication with the college, and the commitment back from the college to work with the communities to figure out what works best for the people that are served and pay for that resource. Well,
you know, I really can't comment whether or not you want to pass the resolution or why you should or why you shouldn't. You need to decide as a council whether or not you think that's important.
Vice Mayor?
Well, on the resolution, it's just like programs we've implemented at the city. They either are really favored by the citizens or they flop. And that's what you're going through right now. If you don't have enrollment, you're going to be hurting for cash, and and grants and other things too. So it's not up to the city of Cottonwood, in my opinion, to tell you how to run your college. Suggestions are great, but for the resolution, I really don't see that it's going to do anything to help the situation the college is in, or make you decide what classes you're going to put in there or courses. So I can't see a reason for the resolution either. It's just that if you don't get the enrollment, you're going to turn around and you're going to try something else.
Well, and that's the magic, is finding out what will work and what benefits the community.
And, you know, it's up to us to take the classes and sign up for the classes. But, you know, speaking of the old catalogs, I can remember how thick they were, and I took a lot of classes during that time, but I would sign up for a class I wanted, and if we didn't get 12 people, we didn't get a class. So then they would sneak by and say, well, we've got 10, so okay, we'll have a class. And by 4 weeks out, we had 6 in our class because 4 quit. So we were running classes constantly with 6 to 8 people. And that's just not sustainable for our tax dollars to continue that kind of policies. So I see where the college is looking at all of these things, but I understand Randy's issue with having things look like they've gone over there, and you know, we're all going to keep telling you how we feel about that, and I think that you've listened and that you are through these boards, and you know, our further participation as citizens, just because we're not on that board doesn't mean we can't tell people how we feel, go to a board meeting. How many citizens do you have at your board meetings? Or you probably don't go to them. So Mr. Falar,
the board meetings,
do go to them?
I attend the board meetings.
How many citizens do we usually have there?
Usually you probably had 4 or 5, maybe.
You know, so maybe it's a little bit on us, too, to take a little more interest, to be a little more supportive of the college, to get out there and try to drum up some people to take classes. It's not all their fault, not all.
It is a symbiotic relationship, the college and the community here. We can't survive without you, and I'm sure you don't want us to go away, which we have no intent to do, but.
Right, so yes, Billy Jane?
The community colleges were originally set up to take care of the people of the community's educational needs. You know, a lot of people have a lot of money and can go anywhere to universities all over the United States, but you have a lot of people living here who do not have that money, and they need a college education also. So this is what a community college is for, to meet those needs particularly. And I mean, if you care, I'm just saying this because I'm thinking, here you are, you know, the city council. I guess you care about the young people that are getting out of high school.
We do.
And so that's all I'm saying.
Thank you, we do very much. And that's why we have this on our agenda tonight to discuss. So I don't know, three council members have don't seem to have a heart for a resolution, so I haven't heard from the other 2, and or whether one way or the other it's
you asking me? I didn't want to speak
whether it's important.
Again, I don't see the real urgent reason to support a resolution.
Thank you.
I'm a little torn. I mean, the comment I made a little bit earlier was sort of along that, you know, not wanting these proliferation of committees and advisory boards to be like a Band-Aid on an issue and have it, you know, still be there and just have a board and a committee to talk about it. So, you know, I do think that there was obviously enough of an issue to raise people's hackles, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you know, how effective passing that'll be or not. I'm kind of, you know, I'm torn on that one. I do think that there needs, you know, I think that everybody got the college's attention and they'll probably keep it. I would just hate to 6
Let
months
the
later,
momentum die.
6 months later, be going, well, we really should have passed a resolution that,
And like that resolution's really going to make a difference.
Right. Well, yeah, it's 6 of 1, half dozen.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Anyway, I just want to say that Mr. Dowling's family is very committed to Yavapai College. Their daughter is enrolled and, as far as I know, plans to attend all 2 years. So they're quite committed to our college and care very much about the education that their daughter will get.
Yes.
And carry on to another college when she's done here. So.
And then, and along that line, there have been, one of the things, I'm kind of a numbers guy. I sat down once and tried to figure out if she had to take courses in Prescott, that would tack $1,000 a month onto somebody's cost if they have to drive to Prescott for a course. And so a lot of times I hear, oh, it's just over to Prescott. Well, if you got to drive to Prescott 3 days a week, you got gas, mileage, time, all that. So I definitely think that, it is incumbent upon the residents to use the service and inspire it. But at the other end of things, you've got to have the opportunity. So where where we used to have the big, thick choices, a big, thick book of choices, it might have caught somebody, not enough people paid attention to the choices. But I hope we are not going to do that now.
Yes, so I agree with you that we want to stay connected, and we can, even if we're not the appointees, we can stay connected. And I think James and our board members that live here in the Verde are very open to suggestions and thoughts and sharing their own thoughts with us. So I just don't see a real passion for resolutions.
I feel like by our previous actions tonight, we've shown that we appreciate the communication. We want communication to flow. I think if anything changes, or if we hear from the community that that's not occurring, then we can certainly revisit this issue.
Absolutely. It can go back on an agenda very easily for discussion. Mr. Filardo?
One of the jobs that I do for universities around the world is to help them improve their processes so that issues are identified and that they work on the root cause instead of the symptoms. The major part of that is about relationships between people that are working with each other. I think it is clear that the citizen of the Verde Valley spoke loudly enough to where we have given notice to my community college that there are things that need to be done, and one of it is improving communications. The newspaper articles, the interviews, the meetings with the League of Women Voters, all of this, we have already said what I think we needed to say. And for the sake of relationship, and as a champion of process improvement, I strongly suggest that we use the kinder and gentler approach to work with each other. I am confident that with Randy and Karen's participation in our board, that from this point forward, that we are going to put each other on notice to perform according to our needs. Not perceptions, but the real needs of our young people and our citizens. So I understand why you folks are doing this with whether we pass resolution or not, but I can tell you, working around the world with multiple cultures, that the gentler and kinder approach is the best way to go. And added to that, we have already whipped the college, I don't know how many times. I'm on the receiving end of it a couple of times. So I appreciate it that you all are having this discussion, but I support Mayor's stance on this. And I want to thank you, Randy and Karen, for volunteering. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we can just go ahead and move on with that. And if at some point in the future Mr. Garrison wants to bring a resolution back, he has that option.
Excuse me, Mayor, because you have this on the agenda as a possible action item, I would recommend a motion by the council, if that's your pleasure, to decline to adopt.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we not adopt any resolution at this time.
A second.
Okay, the mayor made the motion, Mr. Dowling seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Garrison. Okay, thank you very much. So moving on to resolutions numbers 2756, 2757, and 2758, appointing members to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Madam Mayor and Council, we have 3 term expirations. If I can draw your attention, somehow I must have been stuck on 2013 for some reason when I wrote this out. This is term expiration for all 3 individuals on August 16, 2014, as I've got that mistake. This is William Bowden, Ann Shaw, Douglas Hulse, and so all 3 term expirations. We have Ann, who is here tonight, and Ann serves as the vice chair of the commission at this time. Currently, Doug Hulse also serves as the chair, and we have Bill Bowden. We have another individual who is interested in serving on the commission, and this is Trevor Gottschalk, and Trevor's with us tonight. And so we have 4 applicants for 3 open positions.
Okay. So I would like to invite each of you, each applicant that's here tonight, to come up and share a little bit of information about yourself or share with the council why you would like to serve on the commission. So we start with Ms. Shaw.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Ann Shaw. I am the Director of New Visions Academy. I have previously served on the Parks and Recreation Commission for a period of 12 years. I reapplied and was reappointed in this past year for a 1-year term, and I'm asking at this time to be allowed to continue to work with a group that is now familiar to me, close to me. I think I have a fairly good grasp of the issues that the Parks and Rec Commission are required to take a look at least. We are not necessarily a decision-making body, but we are trying to take a look at the issues that make a difference to the Parks and Recreation Department, and also are prepared to pass our recommendations on to you in the event that it is required. I give these issues careful consideration. I love our city. I like being able to work with this commission, and would like to be allowed to continue to do so if you'll allow it. Do you have any questions of me?
I know that Ann was on the commission when the rec center was built and had a lot of input, probably right down to design and colors, I'm guessing.
That's true. Yes, I was there for that.
And
yeah.
so she has already put in a tremendous amount of work and is excellent at what she does. So, okay, thank you very much. And let's see, we don't have, Mr. Bowden is not here tonight, but he also has served, gosh, how many years now? Very faithfully.
24. It's been since 2005 or 2004. He was unable to be here tonight along with Doug Hulse. Doug said a medical appointment in Flagstaff, and I think Bill's wife is not feeling really good. So.
Okay. So they both have done an excellent job and certainly deserve our consideration and continuing. So we also have Trevor. I keep trying to call you Travis. Trevor Gottschalk, is the Gottschalk?
Gottschalk.
Gottschalk.
Yes.
Who has applied and has a very excellent background also.
Yeah, I grew up in Cottonwood, moved back about 7 years ago, and very happy to see all the improvements in park and recreation since I grew up here, and would just like to continue to move the city forward. I mean, use the rec center all the time. My son, we like swimming there. So I'm a business owner in town, so I just have a vested interest in the continuing improvement of parks and recreation services to our community. And so I'd like to be considered for the position.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
The questions, Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment, and it saddens me in a way that in the past we've set a precedent where people have served and been active participants, and then they reapply, we appoint them. But I think Trevor would be a great, so if we'll just create another position so we can appoint all four.
Can we do that? I would like to also.
I think, Trevor, I think you do a great job. I appreciate you stepping forward. So yeah, I'm real conflicted here because we have set a precedent of reappointing people if they have been valuable members of commissions.
They have.
Thank you.
Mr. Garrison?
I don't have a question for you. Thank you very much for
thank you.
applying.
Thanks, Trevor.
One of the things when I first got elected, we had a discussion about trying to become more familiar with all the committees and the commissions and the boards and all these things that exist behind the scenes. And so I've tried to make a real strong effort in attending a lot of these commission or committee meetings to try and really get a better sense of what they do and how they work. And so when things like this come up, I have a better sense of the people that are applying for those positions and what their job will be. And I've had the opportunity of attending at least 2 of your meetings over the last year, and not to downplay the significance or the input or the dedication of the committee. I'm asking, I guess, more on the other end of what exactly does this commission provide to you? Because it seems, from what I've observed, that it's more of a reporting session. I don't really hear a lot of interaction between the committee and the staff in trying to decide or trying to figure out ways to change or improve or modify the services that are being offered. It's almost more of just a reporting issue where here's where our utilities were, here's what our fees were, here's how many people we had come in, and then it's move on to the next item. I don't really hear a lot of interaction. So one of the things that you brought up right after I was elected mayor is whether we needed all these commissions and committees and boards, and what of them were really causing more work for the staff than they were bringing back to the equation. And so that's where I guess my question to you is do you really feel this commission is providing you a value for the amount of work and effort that you and your staff have to put into hosting it?
That's a good question, Randy. I think that I think they're valuable in the context of what we saw during the time period of the recreation center, and actually identifying fees and setting fees, making advice and suggestions, recommendations, bringing that forth, to the city council. In the same context, they do the same thing on reviewing, other fee structures, et cetera. I know we go through a 5-year planning document. 5-year planning document actually has quite a bit of interaction, don't they, Ann? And that's one thing that there is definitely viability there as they go about that every year as they're challenged by, in reality, the ordinance that brings forth to them is every year they're supposed to have that. That's then included into the format of the Parks and Recreation agenda. Usually we start doing it in August, and so we'll be reviewing that again. I know that we have the challenge set forth upcoming for the Parks and Recreation Commission once again to look at fee structure. And that's going to be one of those things where, they're going to be very valuable in ascertaining how much do we go up. Is that something we should definitely take a look at? I know that's one of the things we've definitely been charged with is trying to do cost recovery and identifying that. We do go through reporting. We want to provide as much information as what I can out there to the commissioners so that they have information and understanding. We try to provide information to them as to what's going on in the recreation center towards what we're maybe doing with the structure of current programs, such as special interest class programs, et cetera. What are we doing maintenance-wise in the facility, things of that nature. So, I think they act as a resounding rebound board. They also do provide suggestions and recommendations. That's their main goal, to provide, this body here as a governmental body information, especially as we start looking at parks or things as we grow. I think there's one challenge usually after another. It usually occurs about every 3 to 4 years. And so I think we're kind of in between things right now. So it's a growth issue as we start to grow. They're usually more needed during that time frame. And I know with those who have served on that commission, it's pretty viable here and there, and they definitely are needed. So I don't know if that answered it cohesively, but it is something we like to utilize. We do utilize them also, and it might downplay it a little bit, but it's something that we utilize when we have complaints. We will, we definitely bring the complaints to the commissioners at times if we feel it's relevant, as well as when it's required or requested in that context of things. We do the same thing for officiating services when we have a problem with any of our league programs, such as our basketball leagues or our softball leagues, and we have a problem whereby we've actually taken an administrative stand and we've had a fight at maybe one of the fields. We utilize the Parks and Recreation Commission in that administrative realm also to, try to discourage this. And they're usually proactive in saying, yeah, we're going to, cause this person not to be able to play in our leagues for the next year. So we do utilize them in that context also.
Great, thank you.
Sure. I do know also Mr. Holst and Mr. Bowden wanted to be here. It's like Ann, they have expressed their sincerest desire to reapply again. They do enjoy it. It is one of those things that they do like that they're doing, and they like to work in that context of things as serving the public.
Yeah, so like Terrence said, I just can't imagine, since they've applied, not giving the members that we have who have proven for a long time at how dedicated they are and have done so much. But I still, it would be great to have a young person on there. Could we create another position? Mr. Dowling?
Is there anything that says those gentlemen can't simply show up like they've always been showing up and still participate, even if they've not been appointed?
I don't know. I think
not participate.
I think it would be like a huge slap.
I really don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I agree. Personally, I'd like to get some fresh blood in there. I suppose might be the way to put it. I don't want to disrespect either of the other two gentlemen that are here.
They're the one thing that they implement by procedural format on motions the same as you do. It's kind of tough for somebody to work outside that format.
I was sort of being this might be the one thing they go out and do that week or something. I don't know, but I mean, nothing that says they can't show up to the meeting and still like.
Sure. And we do have that. We have one person that actually lives in the community. They actually show up. I think they've showed up at about 6 meetings straight. But they have not applied. They're interested. They sit and they watch, and that's pretty much what they do. That person enjoys being there.
That's a public meeting, correct?
Right. It is.
So Mr. Elinsky?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint...
Hang on just a second. We had another comment. Mr. Garrison?
No, I guess the one comment I had is I really appreciate that we always seem to have enough people that are applying for these positions to continue to do that work. That's great. I saw an ad this last week for, I think it was the town of Clarkdale, looking for positions for about 6 or 7 boards, and they can't make those boards, and we always have the people reapply. I just really appreciate the dedication that it takes to continue to want to do that job when it's out of their own time and out of their own pocket to do those things. And I also wanted to say I do appreciate that we have such a history and that people have served so long continue to want to serve. But I have to appreciate that we also have young family members and people that are in this community wanting to be part of that equation. And just because somebody's served for 24 years doesn't necessarily mean they need to continue to serve. That we got to bring in new people, new ideas, and open this up to the entire community. But I do appreciate that those people continue to want to serve. It does make a difficult decision, but I really would like to see some people get a chance at that as well.
Sure.
So did anybody else have a comment? Is there anyone from the audience, members of the public, that would like to speak on this item? Okay, so Mr. Elinsky, you wanted to make a motion?
Yeah, and I'll just say, I mean, it's a good problem to have more applicants than vacancies. And,
exactly.
You know, I hope to have that same problem on the Historic Preservation Commission at some point, but to date we don't. But I think it's good also to get fresh blood into the system and get a different perspective. And along those lines, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2756 appointing Trevor Gottschalk to the Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term.
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Elinsky made the motion, and who are you, Mr. Garrison?
It's been a long night, and you still have
I know, I'm not going to make it
to
to National Night Out. I could have worn my Hillary Clinton pantsuit. So, who made that motion? Mr. Elinsky, and Mr. Garrison seconded it. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed?
I'm opposed, and there's nothing personal against this gentleman here, but we've always had this thing when we've had people serve well on this committee. I mean, you brought it up before, and automatically put him back on. You know, that's something that you've done more than once, and this commission has done more than once. So, just want to bring that up.
You know, and I would love to see Trevor serve on it, but I really just can't slap the people that have dedicated their lives to this. I mean, it's just a horrible position to be in, and it's no fun to be a council member. And I would love to see Trevor serve, and I hope he can, but I just couldn't do that to very faithful members of the board. So I would
change my vote to no. I mean to
yeah.
I've got to reconsider too. Yes.
Yes.
And I hate doing it.
I know these people pretty well, and they have served very, very well, and it would be like we didn't appreciate all the service that they've given us.
I was serious. Could we add an extra position?
We'll have to.
The ordinance specifies
yes,
7.
You'd have to amend the municipal code.
Right.
So can we do that at some meeting?
To increase the number of members.
It's not on the.
We can't do it tonight, but we could put it on the.
Yeah.
How much work is that to do to get something like that?
Well, it would be relatively easy. I think I would caution the council that if you do it for this commission,
You have to do it for everyone.
then are you going to end up doing it for every other commission too? I mean, every time, you know, you have some extra people. So, I mean,
agree with that as someone in this position. That I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable in a position being added just for me. So, that's fine.
If I could just, I mean, normally we don't have this problem because we don't get fresh applicants, and these people continue to serve again and again, and that's wonderful. And I don't think this council means any disrespect to folks who've given 12 or 23 years to serve on this commission. They've served it well, but when we have new people come in that are civic minded, I want to encourage that as well. So I'm not coming from any place of disrespect to those who have served. I'm just coming from a place of trying to regenerate that civic mindedness. So
and I understand your point.
We're in a tough spot for sure,
It
but
is.
openings come up consistently on these boards and commissions, and so everybody can reapply, and if they have a great passion, I assume that they will reapply, and then we can consider that at that point. But
Yeah, we used to keep the name of applicants who weren't appointed on some list or something like that.
For 6 months.
When these openings do come up, we had some contacts. And in the past, let me say, back in the day, when I was occupying your chair, we had up to 10 and 12 people that were on that list for positions for each of our commissions and boards. So it's not a new problem.
It's always been a tough, because the community wants to serve, and you certainly want them to. So we did have a motion. Okay,
Madam Mayor, just a couple of comments. One is, we do keep them for 6 months. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't have any other commission openings at this time, but we will contact them if we have one come up. The other thing that Ellen brought up is there are some jurisdictions that do have term limits, if that is something the council would be interested in looking at.
Because then you're going to have empty boards all the time, because you don't get enough people to refill a board. I wouldn't be interested in term limits.
Yeah, we used to have the problem that Randy did talk about, looking at Clarkdale, and we had, I think, open positions in the Parks and Rec Commission in 2001 to 2004. For almost 3 years, we had one vacant slot we couldn't fill. And so we don't have that problem at this time. We're very fortunate there.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor to appoint Trevor to this board. So we had a first and a second. So by show of hands, and I guess if you're voting for this, you're actually voting to keep the other members. So starting with Mr. Pratt, a show of hands as to whether you support that motion.
Explain what you said before that.
Okay,
that if I support this.
Well, if we have a no vote on this motion, that means that the majority is supporting the 3 that have already served.
Okay.
And of course, keeping Mr. Gottschalk's application on hand, giving him other opportunities, because goodness knows we want to have you on a board or a commission. And even an opportunity could show up next month for this one, you know, because that does happen. So a no vote.
So even though it hurts me too very much, and yes, Ruben's right that I brought it up to about the precedent, I'd have to vote no.
Mr. Dowling?
I would say yes.
Okay, Mr. Dowling is yes. Mr. Linsky?
I made the motion, so yes.
Yes, okay, I'm no to...
No.
Yes.
No.
Okay, so we have 4 to 3. And so I would make a motion in that case to appoint Ann Shaw, Bill Bowden, and Doug Hulse to serve on the Parks and Recreation Commission. And that's the hardest motion I have ever made.
I know, that's
Second that motion.
tough.
Okay, so the mayor made the motion, and Mr. Huddy seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Are we going to need a show of hands? Or were there any opposed?
I'll be opposed.
Okay, so we have 3 opposed. So motion carries with 4 votes.
Who was opposed?
Okay, so...
Zelensky, Garrison, and Dowling.
Okay, so we are very thrilled that you applied. I would love to have a young person representing, and we'll keep your application. And if something comes up, we definitely would all 7 of us would support you serving on that. And I hope an opportunity comes up. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, moving on to...
I know it.
Moving on to request for street closure of North Main Street in Old Town for the Thunder Valley Rally event scheduled for September 19th through 21st, 2014, and the Walkin' on Main event scheduled for November 8th, 2014.
This looks like a no-brainer.
Yeah, how much?
We could use one of those right now.
I just want to make a motion, or are we gonna...
Well, he's prepared a little presentation here.
Sorry.
I think we've already missed
Hezekiah's
National Night Out.
got a 45-minute presentation for us.
The closure's a little bit different
Till
this
8?
year.
Is it till 8?
Oh, I know.
8 or 8:30.
Sorry, Hez.
So dark.
Madam Mayor, Council, we'll make this short and sweet. I don't think it'll be 45 minutes. Let's hope not. First of all, we'd like to thank the Parks and Recreation Department. We'd like to thank Public Works, Police Department, the Fire Department, all outlying agencies. Since February, we've been meeting pretty regularly to discuss, per the city manager's request, the Thunder Valley Rally road closure and how it's going to work this year. In addition, working with surrounding communities, for example, Clarkdale, on how it's going to impact them. So we've really gone above and beyond this year to think every little process out, every road closure. We saw a major impact on this program last year and a great increase. We hope to see that again this year and to even maybe grow a little bit. So with that, some of the changes we've made this year for Thunder Valley Rally, we've extended the road closure to Willard Street. There's a soft closure starting at Willard, and we're going to fight mess up anywhere if he can jump in. Soft road closure at Willard Street. It'll turn into a hard closure right there at the corner, just past the south end, and then it'll be motorcycle parking onward. There's going to be 2 stages on the street this year, one on the north end, one on the south end. They'll alternate music throughout the event for the weekend. The portion on the street is actually still free to the participant for the music and opening nights and days and stuff like that. In the evening, the main concert at night, which will be at the Old Town Activity Park, that entire block will be fenced off with black plastic, and that will be the main concerts, and they will be $10, still very reasonable each evening, and that's just to bring in additional revenue to help cover cost. Other changes is the alcohol permitted area has been increased to just past the Civic Center and down Main Street. We've taken the vendors off of the side streets. We're not utilizing the former Orion Bread Company's parking lot behind them, nor the Ledbetter parking lots. We found last year that it wasn't advantageous for those vendors. Instead, we're going to use the tavern parking lot, the city's parking lot, and the Old Town Jail parking lot for vendors, thus also allowing traffic to flow up and down the street. On the rear parking lot in the Old Town Jail, we have hopes to put a Victory demo truck and an Indian demo truck down there. They'll actually leave from that area, go for a ride in Clarkdale and come back. So that's pretty much the gist. In addition, we've also made the Civic Center event headquarters for this program, and it's going to be open up for the entire time that the program is running. That way, if someone has a need or a question or they need emergency services, they have one outlet to go to versus different people trying to find on the street. So,
hey, I'm sorry, you mean just for Thunder Valley Rally, not Walking on Main, right?
Yeah, this is just Thunder Valley Rally. Yeah. Are there any questions on Thunder Valley Rally? I figured it'd be easier to do them both separate.
So can you explain the soft closing, hard closing thing? I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, so at Willard Street, we actually have individuals that live on Balboa. So we can't make a hard closure there. We can't detour traffic to Balboa Street. So to get those citizens to their respective homes, we have to have a soft closure there so they can pull through and get down to Balboa Street. We have security there that'll make sure the check IDs that they actually have addresses back there. And then from the soft closure on, it's still motorcycle parking. But we want to avoid the situation of getting a lot of vehicle traffic, motor vehicles, cars, trucks into that area, and then have to turn them around.
So then so Cactus Street won't be used as a detour?
Correct.
For either event?
Walking on Main's separate animal.
Totally separate, okay, yeah. Interesting. So if you want to get from one end of town to the other, you have to go
You have to utilize Verde Heights. And there'll actually be no parking signs all the way up Verde Heights. There'll be no parking signs on Cactus as well, along with speed limit signs, if I remember correctly.
But how would you get from Verde Heights? How would you get from Willard to Verde Heights?
Cactus would technically be a detour around Old Town.
Right. Well, using Verde Heights. So you would come down Verde Heights to Cactus, out to Main Street to Clarkdale.
So Willard to Mingus to Verde Heights. Okay, I got it.
Yep.
All right.
Correct. And we actually will have signboards that also say at the intersection where the banks are, for Old Town Clarkdale or Clarkdale and the train, make a left here, take 89A, use the bypass.
You might want to talk a little bit, Hez, about coordination with OTA and the merchants.
Since February, when we've started having these meetings, we've also invited members that are very active with Thunder Valley Rally, and then also Old Town Association members to look at this more in depthly as far as how it's going to affect them and their business. So they've been with us since the beginning. I believe 3 of the Old Town Association members, and we've also brought it up in their official board meetings with the site plans. In addition to, we've already made one round through Old Town, making a stop by each business to discuss how they feel about the road closure, is it going to work, and any suggestions. Usually the main issue is parking for the merchants, and we've kind of alleviated that by having the old Orion Bread Company parking lot still open, the Ledbetter parking lot still open. Basically, the only thing we're taking is Main Street.
And the merchants, I may have missed the question already, but the merchants are generally in favor of this or not?
I would say generally in favor, yes. You do have those few individuals that are a little more outspoken. Is it really concerning the road closure? I would say no. It's probably more concerning the program. And I think those issues have been alleviated and discussed. And I would say it's maybe 2 or 3. And that's a pretty objective point of view.
Okay. So, council?
I just have a question. My wife has a business on Main Street, and she's one of the very few businesses that has parking in back of her building. Are you aware where I'm talking about?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
She's on the left side of the street, about in the middle.
Right, and so usually what I do is I turn on the corner here and then go behind the buildings and she can park there. Is that still going to be available?
Yeah, the only difference is you have to come down Verde Heights to get to her area.
Okay, because I'm just referring to last year when she was, she didn't want to make an issue of it, but they won't let her go in there to park.
Right.
And you know, this year, having come out of the hospital after her knee surgeries, you know,
a long hike.
It is a concern.
Right.
So, okay, just as long as she can get back there. Like I say, we're one of the few that has parking.
Yeah, we heard the concerns last year, and they were because on each side of Main Street there's that alleyway, and most of the business uses that to either get deliveries or get the trash taken out, their recycling taken out, or to get to their parking areas. So that's why we didn't want to use those parking lots, and for a number of other reasons that are off Main Street. We wanted to leave that to the merchants for parking and only utilize the 2 large lots. One to centralize those features of the program and to draw traffic up and down the street and to reduce the parking issue.
Well, thank you, because she'll be asking me about that.
Especially when it's hard to walk right now. Okay, any other comments or questions? Mr. Pratt?
I'll make a motion.
Anybody from the public want to talk on this item? If not, Mr. Pratt, please proceed.
I move to approve the requested street closure on Main Street in Old Town for Thunder Valley Rally, September 19th, 21st, 2014, and Walking on Main, November 8th, 2014.
Presented that.
Okay, did I hear a second? Okay.
Okay, well, they haven't presented the second half of that yet, but I think it'll probably still get approved.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Pratt made the motion and the Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that's, we just made that motion for Thunder Valley Rally, correct?
Nope, we just made it for both.
For everything.
Oh, okay, for both, even though he wasn't done?
Yeah, I thought he was. I thought it was just...
That was great.
I thought the closure was just a little more minimal.
Thunder Valley Rally.
You gotta be a little faster. We're making motions and getting things moving. So go ahead and explain that.
Well, you know,
you
really,
like.
this site plan hasn't changed. We wanted to make a point to come to the council for you guys to authorize these road closures in the future, and now it's really the same thing. We do the artist tent 40 by 40 right at the tavern parking lot, the wine tasting area, historic booths. The stage is kind of cattywampus there, and then it goes down to the classic cars. So, and this one is just from the tavern parking lot down. I think it's Pinal. If I'm correct on that.
When you say tavern parking lot, do you mean actually the city parking lot?
City parking lot.
City parking lot at the tavern.
Just want to make sure it doesn't get entered in, you know. Yeah. Because after a while, when you keep repeating it,
it's true.
Next thing you know.
Is he here?
He thinks it says.
So that's any questions?
Okay.
Status quo on that one.
Any questions on that? And we already made the motion, so now we understand what we voted for.
Did we vote?
We did.
We already did. Did we vote?
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for your time. We're excited about the events. So I entertain a motion on the claims.
I move that we pay the claims and adjustments.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Dowling made the motion, Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I move we adjourn.
Second.
The mayor made the motion, Mr. Garrison seconded it. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.